Chapter 1075. Duanmu Hong's words silenced the entire second floor of the Black Spirit Hall. All the ancient race disciples and the descendants of the Void Temple looked at him. The ancient clan disciple who spoke first didn't get angry when he saw Duanmu Hong, who still looked like a teenager. He merely glanced sideways at him. You should only be at the foundation establishment stage. Can you understand Brother Lianqing's technique? Junior doesn't understand, Duanmu Hong answered honestly. Even if he was talented in alchemy and knew many things, the difference in cultivation was too big. He naturally couldn't see through Gu Lianqing's method of using magic power. At most, he could only guess from the surface. When Duanmu Hong answered like this, many people revealed looks of disapproval. The leader of the Taishu Temple disciples was a handsome youth in white. It was Chen Xingyu. A Taishu Temple disciple beside him shook his head. Xianmen Tianzong is really arrogant. Even a child doesn't know what's important. Duanmu Hong looked at the others strangely and then looked at Yan Wei. But Martial Uncle Yan explained it to me. I can understand. Many people smiled and shook their heads. However, there were also a few people who looked at Yan Wei. This fatty hasn't formed his nascent soul yet, but he can understand the technique of the middle stage Yuanian cultivator, Gu Lianqing? Some of the Gu clan disciples frowned and looked at Gu Lianqing. This was because they noticed that after Gu Lianqing heard Duanmu Hong's words, his expression changed from disapproving to thoughtful. He began to think seriously. More and more people saw him like this, and they couldn't help but feel nervous. They began to seriously think about Duanmu Hong's initial words. Most of the Gu clan's disciples were proficient in alchemy, especially the few led by Gu Lianqing. Although they were juniors in the ancient emperor's bloodline, if they were to go to the outside world, they would all be famous alchemy grandmasters. Now that they put down their prejudices and thought seriously, their hearts moved. They went into deep thought and kept deducing. Especially Gu Lianqing. He could be said to be the most outstanding alchemy genius of the ancient king's younger generation. He could even be considered the most outstanding alchemy grandmaster below the primordial soul realm. Duanmu Hong's words were directed at the problem he had with the alchemy just now. Gu Lianqing was the clearest on whether Duanmu Hong was talking nonsense or not. After thinking about it carefully, Gu Lianqing shook his head and said, "It is not impossible to use the 7 void and 3 corporeal method, but because I am using the Nan Mingli fire to refine the elixir, if I use the 7 void and 3 corporeal magic power to refine the elixir, it might damage the medicinal effect. Perhaps it can indeed draw out more pills, but the medicinal power won't be as good as it is now. Choosing the lesser of two evils, the quality of the pills is more important than quantity." Duanmu Hong frowned. "You don't have to use the Nan Mingli fire." Someone from the Gu clan burst out laughing, but Gu Lianqing didn't laugh. Instead, he explained seriously, using the Nan Mingli fire not only increases the success rate of alchemy, but it also increases the quality of the elixir. Therefore, when using the Nan Mingli fire, the amount of spirit energy drawn when opening the cauldron is the most suitable. Of course, this is relative to elixirs like the Qi reversal elixir. For other elixirs there will be corresponding changes in the technique, but there will be many changes. It is not just the change of the magic power when opening the cauldron to refine the elixir. This needs to be adapted to the situation. After hearing Gu Lianqing's explanation, many people thought about it seriously and nodded. That is right. In order to covet the number of elixirs, he neglected the quality of the elixir. This is obviously not worth it. However, this child is not bad. He is quite talented in the alchemy path. He still needs to guard against arrogance and rashness. Otherwise, it will be easy for him to walk on the crooked path of seeking instant benefit. Then, a good seedling will be wasted. That will depend on how Xianmen Tianzong teaches him. However, looking at the current situation, there are already signs of him walking on the crooked path. Xianmen Tianzong's rise is too fast, and the entire sect is too impatient. This is unavoidable. Hearing the discussions of the surrounding people, Yang Tai, Tan Yunqing, Yen Wuwei, and the others were calm. However, Yi Xinhui and the other third-generation direct disciples were frowning slightly. However, it wasn't because of their senior brother, Duanmu Hong. Instead, they were looking at the people discussing. Gu Lianqing stopped the discussion of his clansmen and waved his hand. Although his thinking is not thorough enough, it is rare for him to be able to draw inferences and think deeply. Also, don't forget that he is only at the Foundation Establishment realm. When I and all of you were at the Foundation Establishment realm, did you pay attention to the change of magic power when pulling the elixir? At that time, we would be happy for a long time if we could refine more than 5 Qi restoration pills with the same amount of ingredients. The ancient clansman quietened down. Gu Lianqing turned to look at Duanmu Hong. This little friend, I remember that you are called Duanmu Hong. Are you Taoist Tang Jun's direct disciple? Duanmu Hong nodded. Gu Lianqing continued, little friend Duanmu, maintain your meticulous and open-minded way of thinking. However, you need to be more thorough when thinking about problems. Your future is limitless. In the Taishu Temple, a young man looked at Duanmu Hong and said, you have talent, but you cannot squander it like this. Blindly seeking instant benefits and greed for a moment of vanity will only lead you to the wrong path in the end. Perhaps this cannot be blamed on you. After all, the environment you grew up in is like this. One is marked by the company one keeps. It is inevitable that you will be affected. He glanced at Tang Jun and shook his head before looking at Duanmu Hong again. Some people have already sunk their feet into the mud. You still have the leeway to rein in the horse at the precipice. Conduct yourself with dignity. Yang Tai silently said, this Taoist from the Taishu Temple, please be careful with your words. The young man smiled. Good medicine tastes bitter, and good advice is unpleasant to the ear. This has always been the case since ancient times. I admit that my words just now were a little deep, but I really cannot bear to see a good seedling of alchemy step on the wrong path. If you feel that my words are unpleasant to the ear, I can choose not to say it. However, those who hide their ailments for fear of treatment will only suffer in the end. Tang Jun, who had been staring at the flowing azure cauldron, finally regained his senses. He suddenly turned around and asked, how should I address you? My name is Chong Ling, the young man smiled faintly. Tang Jun nodded. Fellow Taoist Chong seems to have deep attainments in the Tao of alchemy? Chong Ling unhurriedly said, my master is Tao Master Ming Qi, a disciple of Tao Master Qing Ning. What I have learned from my elders in alchemy is only the tip of the iceberg. I don't dare to say how deep my attainments are, but at the very least, I know some of the most basic principles. Tao Master Ming Qi was a cultivator of the same generation as Lin Daohan and Yen Mingyue in Taishu Temple. He had entered the sect before Yen Mingyue and Pang Jia. It was just that he spent most of his time in seclusion at White Cloud Mountain and rarely went out. Even if he did go out, it was to gather herbs and refine pills, so he wasn't too famous. But within Taishu Temple, Tao Master Ming Qi's reputation was very resounding. As one of Tao Master Qing Ning's successors, his alchemy skills were superb and he was at the top of the entire Taishu Temple. His master, Tao Master Qing Ning, had high hopes for Tao Master Ming Qi and was optimistic that he would surpass his master in the future. However, in the outside world, very few people knew of Tao Master Ming Qi. But his master, Chong Ling's master ancestor, Tao Master Qing Ning, was extremely famous. This old man had already become famous in the Middle Era. After entering the modern era, he was recognized as the #1 alchemist in Taishu Temple. His alchemy skills were superb, and not only did he far surpass his peers, but it was also difficult to find someone who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. The Tao of alchemy was not like magic powers. the higher one's cultivation, the stronger their magic powers, and the higher their alchemy skills would be. Of course, there were some alchemy methods that could only be used after one's magic powers or cultivation reached a certain level. Or, if one's magic powers were powerful enough, it would be more helpful in alchemy. But what was more important was a cultivator's own understanding and perception of the Tao of alchemy. There were many unique alchemy methods and techniques that were rooted in a cultivator's own understanding of the Tao and magic powers. They were unique methods that could only be comprehended by oneself. Not even a master could teach them. The lower one's cultivation, the greater the difference in their realm and magic powers. The Yuanying realm Gulianqing, Tangjun, and Chongling were naturally better at alchemy than the Foundation establishment realm Duanmuhong. This was because there were some techniques that even if Duanmuhong knew, he couldn't use on his own, or if he couldn't use them freely, thus he wouldn't be able to achieve the desired effect. And the higher one's cultivation, the smaller the effect would be. This was especially true after one reached the essence soul realm. The difference in magic powers and magic powers would have a negligible effect on alchemy skills. At this time, alchemy skills mainly depended on a cultivator's own comprehension and research. With Tao Master Qing Ning as an example, it wasn't just the previous generation's Tao Master Supreme, Shoichi Dashin, and the others, but even the previous generation's Taishu Temple elders were inferior to him in terms of alchemy technique. In the eyes of many people in this world, Tao Master Qing Ning was not only the #1 alchemist in Taishu Temple, but he was also the #1 alchemist in the entire Divine Land. Chong Ling's words sounded modest, but how could the people of Xianmen Tianzong not hear the ridicule in his words? Even the simple and honest Duanmu Hong widened his eyes and clenched his fist. Tang Jun calmly looked at Chong Ling and nodded. Oh, I've heard of Tao Master Qing Ning's great name for a long time. Tao Master Ming Qi must also be an alchemy expert. However, Tao Friend Chong, what you said just now is still open to discussion. Hiding one's illness for fear of treatment is indeed not advisable, but there is a prerequisite. The doctor must be a good doctor, not a quack. Chong Ling frowned slightly when he heard this. Tang Jun's expression remained indifferent. Did Tao Friend Chong grow up in White Cloud Mountain? I wonder if you've lived in the secular world? You must know that many patients who could have survived lost their lives in vain because of quack. Tang Jun calmly walked in front of the people of Taishu Temple and looked at Chong Ling face to face. A cold smile appeared on his face. To you, it might be seeking instant benefits, but to us Xianmen disciples, it's nothing more than a trivial matter. Greedy for a moment of vanity? It's not that we're greedy for vanity, but we can bear this glory, so it naturally falls on us. Chong Ling's pupils shrank slightly. You, Tang Jun chuckled and directly turned around, leaving Chong Ling behind. He walked in front of the flowing green cauldron. Open your eyes wide and learn well. Chapter 1076. Tang Jun arrived in front of the clear flow cauldron and first looked at his disciple, Duanmu Hong. What Tao Friend Gu said is indeed correct. When using the Nan Mingli flame to refine the Qi reversal pill, pulling the pill out of the cauldron to draw the magic power is more suitable. If we don't use the Nan Mingli flame to refine the Qi reversal pill, we can make some changes by drawing the magic power. However, if we don't use the Nan Mingli flame, the quality of the pill will inevitably drop. Then what should we do at this time? Duanmu Hong pondered and said, Think of other ways? Tang Jun smiled. That's right. We have to think of other ways to make adjustments. Pulling the pill out of the cauldron to draw the magic power isn't the only way. Hearing this, all the ancient clan's disciples frowned, because Tang Jun's words were clearly referring to Gu Lianqing's refinement. There was more than one way to improve. Gu Lianqing didn't say anything and looked at Tang Jun's actions seriously. Tang Jun didn't continue to explain. He slapped his palms on the clear flow cauldron, and the milky white pure yang true fire appeared. Then, he used his magic power to draw all the herbs into the cauldron. Blue currents appeared in the clear flow cauldron again. It was like a turbulent sea wave that was constantly moving up and down in the cauldron. Tang Jun's expression was calm as he poured his magic power into the cauldron. The milky white pure yang true fire was also burning vigorously. Although it wasn't as good as the Nan Mingli flame in alchemy and blacksmithing, the pure yang true fire was pure and gentle. It was a good choice for alchemy. Gu Lianqing's attention wasn't on Tang Jun at all. He was paying attention to his every move. Chong Ling also calmed down and started to seriously watch Tang Jun refine the pill. In all fairness, if he was to refine the qi reversal pill, his result might not be better than Gu Lianqing's. He might even be slightly inferior. Chong Ling was well aware of this. However, Gu Lianqing had the Nan Mingli fire, and he didn't. Therefore, in terms of pure alchemy techniques, he and Gu Lianqing were basically on par. It was hard to say who was stronger. As one of the two most outstanding alchemists of the younger generation in Taishu Temple, Chong Ling's attainments in the art of alchemy were actually not bad. Thus, he could basically understand Tang Jun's technique. His standard is indeed very high, but if this is all, without the help of the Nan Mingli fire, he wouldn't be able to beat Gu Lianqing. He might even be slightly inferior. Just as he was thinking, Chong Ling's eyes suddenly widened. He saw Tang Jun's hands changing hand seals. Streams of dermic powers were injected into the azure flow cauldron. The azure air currents in the azure flow cauldron kept tumbling like boiling water. The square cauldron, which looked small but was actually very heavy, suddenly shook, as if it could explode at any moment. "Are you trying to explode the cauldron by doing this?" After the initial shock, Chong Ling couldn't help but laugh. Gu Lianqing also looked at Tang Jun in shock. "Dao friend Tang, the azure flow cauldron has the ability to stabilize the medicinal power, but there is a limit. If you press the medicinal power like this, there is a risk of an explosion." Tang Jun's expression was normal. "Dao friend Gu, please don't be impatient. Actually, you have the Nan Mingli fire, so it is much more convenient for you to use this method than me. The effect might even be better." Gu Lianqing's heart skipped a beat as he carefully stared at the azure flow cauldron. The restless ancient clan disciples beside him also calmed down when they saw this. Chong Ling also calmed down and observed carefully. He gradually saw some clues, and his expression couldn't help but turn serious. As time passed, the azure flow cauldron still didn't stabilize and kept shaking violently as if it could explode at any moment. However, it still didn't break through the final limit and truly explode. As time passed, everyone gradually became shocked and started to guess what kind of elixir Tang Jun would be able to refine in the end, how many he could refine, and how long he would take. Time seemed to be passing very slowly, but everyone had this bit of patience, so they weren't in a hurry. Silently, they waited for the moment when the elixir was completed and the cauldron was opened. Finally, Tang Jun's hand suddenly stopped, and the azure flow cauldron also slightly paused. During this pause, Tang Jun slapped both of his palms on the azure flow cauldron and shouted, "Open!" The azure flow cauldron suddenly spewed out surging heat waves, and a green current spread out. Rays of radiance soared into the sky and condensed without dissipating. It was like a cloud of smoke and a treasure light. The fog of light was like a sea of fire that spread out in the void and didn't dissipate for a long time. Everyone stared at the sea of fire and said, "It is the same as the lotus phenomenon when Gu Lianqing opened the cauldron. But the momentum is even greater. Just based on this point, the quality of the elixir can only be stronger than Gu Lianqing's qi reversal elixir." Of course, the qi reversal elixir was a relatively ordinary elixir. No matter how different there was, it would be very small and almost undetectable. However, the ancient clan's descendants, here more or less, had some understanding of the path of elixir refinement, so they naturally knew how difficult it was to improve further. Tang Jun waved his sleeve to disperse the sea of fire. Everyone looked at the azure flow cauldron and saw the pinkish-white chi reversal elixir. There were exactly 13 of them. The ancient clan's descendants were all stunned, and the Taishu temple's cultivators also slightly frowned. In the Xianmen Tianzong's camp, Yan Wei said with a smile, "It took exactly 45 minutes, slightly faster than Gu Daoist." As soon as he said this, the second floor of the Black Spirit Temple instantly became quiet. Although they were a little absent-minded just now, as long as they were in the golden elixir period, they had a basic sensitivity to time. Naturally, they could calculate the time and knew that Yan Wei was not lying. However, this result was a little hard for people other than Xianmen Tianzong to accept. Tang Jun actually won in terms of quality, quantity, and speed? Gu Lianqing didn't pay much attention to this. Instead, he fell into deep thought and muttered to himself, "The magic power used to guide the medicinal effect is the 7 void and 3 corporeal." He raised his head and looked at Tang Jun. "The change lies in the previous steps?" Tang Jun nodded. "Before this, I increased the fire by 20%. However, when I was about to come out of the cauldron, I decreased it by 10%. That way I could achieve the desired effect." He paused for a moment and continued, "Of course, I increased the fire by 20% before this, no more. Otherwise, there would really be a risk of the cauldron exploding. After that, I slowed down the fire and had to complete it in an instant. In fact, the risk of failure at the last step was higher." Tang Jun didn't say anything else. He didn't mean to boast, but most of the people here knew more about the path of elixir refinement. The difficulty of this cauldron of elixir refinement was not as simple as what Tang Jun said. If he could easily increase the fire by 20%, Big Brother Lianqing would have done it a long time ago. It's not that he doesn't want to, but it's too dangerous. An ancient clan's disciple said in a low voice, "Increasing the fire by 10% already has the risk of the cauldron exploding, let alone increasing the fire by 20%. Furthermore, it wasn't just a short period of time. Other than the last moment when he pulled the cauldron out of the cauldron, he had to increase the fire by 20% for the entire 45-minute. Even if he used the clear flow cauldron, the stability of Tang Jun's elixir refinement is too high." Someone wasn't convinced. "Perhaps he is just lucky. If he were to refine a few more cauldrons, there would be a chance of failure. It's like walking on the edge of a cliff." The person from before shook his head. After a full 3/4 of an hour, there was no change in the firepower at all. If there was an accident, it would have happened long ago. This means that to Tang Jun, it is indeed as he said. Increasing the firepower by 20% is within his control. Only by exceeding 20% can he escape from his control. At the very least, 45 minutes is definitely within his control, and 45 minutes is enough for him to refine this cauldron of chi restoration elixir. Although I don't want to admit it, we might be treading on thin ice, but for him, it's a smooth road." This was actually the most shocking part. Some of the ancient clan's disciples fell into silence, and their faces were clearly filled with unwillingness. The ancient clan's disciple who spoke first was the second best alchemist among the younger generation, aside from Gu Lianqing. He looked at his clansmen and said in a low voice, "Furthermore, just like what Tang Jun said, the difficulty is even higher. The reason why he was able to refine that cauldron of elixir was because, at the last moment, the fire dropped by 30%. It dropped to a level even lower than Brother Lianqing's. The others were shocked and also reacted. A sudden drop in fire and a sudden increase in fire makes it easier for the cauldron to explode." That ancient clan's disciple sighed. "That's right. Furthermore, we all know that the moment before the cauldron is opened, stability is especially important. At this moment, a sudden drop in fire makes it easier for the cauldron to explode than usual. Furthermore, the intensity of the previous fire was already at a relatively dangerous level. With all of these factors combined, The difficulty of the last moment reached a height that we can't even imagine at our current level. However, fellow Taoist Tang Jun has succeeded. He has also succeeded in the last movement, which is even more difficult. From this, it also proves that his previous method of increasing the speed of the firepower by 20% for the 3/4 of an hour was indeed within his control. He had a card up his sleeve. Everyone became silent, but this time, they revealed a convinced expression. Chong Ling's gaze went back and forth between the two cauldrons of qi restoration elixirs refined by Tang Jun and Gu Lianqing. He had quite a bit of attainment in the alchemy path, so he didn't need to carefully compare them. Just by using his divine sense, he could tell that the quality of the two cauldrons of elixirs was almost the same. If one were to strictly compare, Tang Jun's cauldron of elixirs was even slightly better. It was truly an all-round victory in quality, quantity, and speed. However, it is not without its drawbacks. Chong Ling had completely calmed down at this moment. He looked at Tang Jun and said, "Refining with such a hasty fire will cause damage to the cauldron itself. Although the damage is negligible, if you use this method for a long time and maintain this style of pursuing the limit, the damage will accumulate. In the end, it will be difficult to recover and the quality of the cauldron will be permanently lowered." It is indeed not a lie to say that you are eager for quick success. You immediately demonstrated it to everyone. A portion of the people heard this and frowned. After thinking about it carefully, they knew that Chong Ling's words were not false. Tang Jun smiled coldly and didn't say much. His body slightly leaned to the side. Only then did the people in Chong Lei's direction see that one of Tang Jun's hands had been pressed on the flowing azure cauldron the entire time. Ever since he finished refining, he hadn't let go. Chapter 1077. Tang Jun moved his body slightly to the side. Only then did the people behind him see his movements clearly. On the other side, many people did not notice the problem before. At this time, as Tang Jun moved sideways, they noticed that one of Tang Jun's hands had been on the Qinglu cauldron. He is nourishing the elixir cauldron with his own Dharma power to eliminate the damage caused to the elixir cauldron. People reacted one after another. The damage caused by one alchemy is negligible. As long as it is nourished in time after the alchemy, there will be no future problems. If it is nourished in time after each alchemy, there will be no accumulation of damage. Naturally, the quality of the elixir cauldron will not be reduced. Tang Jun looked at Chong Ling and said lightly, "We are not like you, who blindly suppress conflicts. For existing problems, we usually solve them as soon as possible." Chong Ling's pupils shrank slightly. He stared at Tang Jun coldly and his Dharma power and aura were ready to move. Tang Jun said calmly, "What? You can't compete with me in alchemy, so you want to compete with me? I can't compete with you. But your Chen Xingyu friend Chen is not bad." "You." Chong Ling took a deep breath and was about to step forward. At this time, a voice suddenly sounded in the Black Spirit Palace. "Young man, it is better to be humble. Your technique can still be improved." As the voice sounded, the crowd saw two elders coming down from the 3rd floor of the Black Spirit Palace. The one in front was a dignified white-haired elder. He was Gu Yuankai, the venerable elder of the ancient emperor's bloodline, the spiritual awareness lord. The other was wearing a robe with a white auspicious cloud embroidered on it. He was also a hale and hearty old man, but he was Tao Master Qing Ning, the highest elder of the Taishu Temple. Tao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai came down from the 3rd floor of the Black Spirit Palace together. Chen Xingyu, Chong Ling, Gu Lianqing and other disciples of the ancient emperor bloodline of the Taishu Temple all saluted them. Chong Ling looked at Tao Master Qing Ning, a look of shame on his face. He couldn't help but lower his head. Tao Master Qing Ning glanced at Chong Ling and said nothing. Although his previous words were directed at Tang Jun, he did not look at Tang Jun at this moment. Instead, He looked at the other side of the hall on the second floor of the Black Spirit Palace and said, "Xiao Yan, you should teach your disciple yourself." Everyone was shocked and turned to look, but they still felt that there was no one in that direction. The next moment, Xiao Yan and Xiao Zhen-er's figures slowly appeared in front of them. It wasn't that it didn't exist in the past. It was just that under the influence of Xiao Yan and Yi Shiwen's magic power, no one could detect its existence. At the same time, even if they saw it, they would subconsciously ignore it. Xiao Yan looked at Dao Master Qing Ning and a cold smile appeared on his face. Dao Master Qing Ning seemed to be quite graceful and didn't interfere with the internal teaching of Xianmen Tianzong, but in fact, he put himself in a very high position. Not only Tang Jun but also Xiao Yan. Dao Master Qing Ning's words clearly showed that he didn't want to teach Tang Jun, but he wanted Xiao Yan to give a plan to improve Tang Jun's technique, and then he would comment on Xiao Yan's plan. Oh, he really put on a good show. Xiao Yan shook his head and laughed. In all fairness, with Dao Master Qing Ning's age, experience, and identity, it was not too much for him to do so. Seriously speaking, Xiao Yan's age might not even be a fraction of his age, so Xiao Yan didn't refute him, calling him little friend. But to comment on the improvement of Tang Jun's alchemy technique was another matter. Among the two parties who had just clashed, Tang Jun was Xiao Yan's disciple, and Chong Ling was Dao Master Qing Ning's grand disciple. Dao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai were old acquaintances, and Gu Yuankai was Xiao Zhen-er's granduncle. No matter how you looked at it, he could also be regarded as Xiao Yan's elder, but this was all from Xiao Yan's side. It was a different matter from Lin Feng's side. There had always been disputes about how to calculate Lin Feng's seniority in the Divine Land, but Lin Feng himself didn't care much about this. Most of the people he talked to were fellow Taoists. Among these people, there was no lack of seniority, but everyone could only listen to what Lin Feng wanted to do, so the final result was that they all made friends. However, Lin Feng could do as he pleased, but others couldn't ignore him. From being regarded as a big shot on the same level as Yan Nanlai, Liang Pan, Shi Yu, and Xian Longxing in the past, to being recognized as a giant on the same level as the four elders of the Great Void, how to position Lin Feng was a headache for others. In the end, they could only address him as the master of the Celestial Sect, and because of Lin Feng, this problem was also extended to his personal disciples, Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi. The relationship between Xianmen Tianzong and Taishu Temple was originally a bit tit-for-tat, and the situation just now was not harmonious at all. Dao Master Qing Ning's approach was clearly to get back at Taishu Temple and beat up Xiao Yan, Tang Jun, and the others in Xianmen Tianzong. The posture he put on was like a teacher inspecting the homework of a student from a high position. Although there were rumors that Xiao Yan was good at alchemy, for Dao Master Qing Ning, he had enough confidence in the way of alchemy, not to mention other aspects. Xiao Yan slightly sneered. He had never been in contact with Dao Master Qing Ning before. If it was another occasion, he wouldn't mind exchanging alchemy with him in a pleasant atmosphere, but since the other party had made a move, he had no reason not to take it. Even today, who is calming down day by day, in Xiao Yan's dictionary there has never been the phrase to endure a moment of calm. His creed had always been this: if you want to fight, then fight. Tang Jun's tough style of dealing with outsiders stemmed from his own personality, but it also stemmed from his master. The improvement that Dao Master Qing Ning mentioned should be referring to the moment when my disciple was in a hurry to refine the pill and suddenly lowered the firepower just before it left the furnace. In truth, the strength of the firepower could have been lowered a bit more, right? Xiao Yan said lightly. In other words, compared to before, the difference in the strength of the firepower has reached 4 points. As a result, the quality of the pill will be a bit higher. As soon as Xiao Yan said this, although there was no uproar because he, Dao Master Qing Ning, and Gu Yuankai were all present at the same time, the faces of the younger disciples were filled with shock. Tang Jun's method was already extremely difficult. It required a high level of control over the strength of the firepower. Among the younger disciples present, it could be said that no one could do it besides him. As for the others, just maintaining a higher level of firepower was already enough to cause the furnace to explode at any moment, not to mention the sudden change in firepower at the end. But now, Xiao Yan actually said that there was an even more intense change in firepower. How could they not be shocked? As the old saying went, the difficulty of taking a step further from the highest level of enlightenment was not as simple as taking a single step. Gu Lianqing looked at Gu Yuankai and asked, "Great uncle, is this something a Yuanying realm cultivator can do?" The level of alchemy wasn't completely linked to a cultivator's own cultivation realm, supernatural powers, and magic power. However, in a situation where the level of pure technique was similar, those with a higher cultivation would naturally have an easier time than those with a lower cultivation. This was because those with a higher cultivation could use their stronger supernatural powers to make up for some of the flaws in their technique. To put it bluntly, they were relying on their own strength to resist. However, some flaws in technique could be made up for, while others couldn't. Otherwise, the title of number 1 alchemist in Taishu Temple wouldn't have been Dao Master Qing Ning's turn. When one's cultivation realm was low, this kind of situation was more common. Gu Lianqing couldn't use Tang Jun's alchemy method right now. If he tried, he would most likely explode his furnace. However, if he was at the primordial spirit realm, then even if his alchemy level was still at the current level, he could still use Tang Jun's method. That was to use his more refined control of magic power to stabilize the furnace from the outside. He wouldn't be like Tang Jun, who completely relied on alchemy techniques to control the pill fire. However, if he followed Xiao Yan's method, Gu Lianqing didn't have full confidence that he could withstand it with external force even if he was at the primordial spirit realm. The difficulty wasn't something that could be made up for with external force. What looked like a simple technique was constantly breaking through the limit. It was already close to the Tao. Gu Yuankai silently replied, "A Yuanying realm cultivator can do it." The surprise on Gu Lianqing's face became even more intense. Then, he revealed a look of realization. Gu Yuankai nodded. "This old man and Tao venerate Qing Ning can do it. That young man named Tang Jun is indeed very talented. He should be able to do it if he trains a bit more." As for him, Gu Yuankai looked at Xiao Yan, slightly shaking his head. Although this person is straightforward and violent, and has little respect for the wise, he is not a person who lies. Since he said so, he should be able to do it himself. That's why he proposed this improvement plan. There is always someone better. After a long time, Gu Lianqing recovered and sighed. The world is big and there are many heroes. Lianqing is still far from that. Gu Yuankai smiled. "It's good that you understand this principle." He looked at Xiao Yan. "Will you understand this principle today?" Tao Venerate Qing Ning's gaze also fell on Xiao Yan. His expression was calm. There was no joy or sorrow on his face. Little friend Xiao Yan is wise. This is indeed an area that can be improved. Xiao Yan calmly said, "When pulling the pill out of the furnace, the 7 voids and 3 real and 6 voids and 4 real are not the best choices. The most ideal state is to guide the real and fake magic power. 6.5 is fake and 3.5 is real. In this case, with the same amount of herbs, there is a 70% chance of refining 14 Qi restoration pills." This was a great test for the alchemy technique, especially the last pulling of the pill out of the furnace. The reason why Tang Jun and Gu Lianqing used the 6 voids and 4 real and 7 voids and 3 real changes was because the method Xiao Yan mentioned was more difficult. They couldn't grasp it yet. The others were shocked to the point where they were numb. Tao Venerate Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai's eyes flashed at the same time. The rumors are not exaggerated. Xiao Yan is indeed very talented and accomplished in alchemy. In addition to fire control, Xiao Yan had also improved the method of pulling the pill. Even the two of them could only do this when they were below the primordial spirit realm. Xiao Yan calmly looked at Dao Venerate Qing Ning. Dao Venerate Qing Ning, I wonder if there are any omissions in what I just said? After a moment of silence, Dao Venerate Qing Ning nodded. Little friend Xiao Yan's talent in alchemy is indeed rare. In time, he will become a great person. So, Dao Venerate Qing Ning has nothing to add, Xiao Yan said slowly. Dao Venerate Qing Ning's heart suddenly sank. A bad premonition rose in his heart. The next moment, he heard Xiao Yan say, "But I feel that there are still omissions." Chapter 1078. Xiao Yan could see the meaning behind Dao Master Qing Ning's previous actions, and so could many others. Even people who can't see through it will also vaguely have a feeling in their hearts that Xiao Yan in front of Dao Lord Qing Ning is only a junior who hasn't grown up yet. In front of the Void Temple, the Xian Gate Sky sect in the end is still a head shorter. The limitless glory of Tang Jun's counterattack against Chong Ling after Dao Lord Qing Ning appeared, it all turned to smoke. Xiao Yan and Xianmen Tianzong seemed to be a head shorter in front of Dao Master Qing Ning and Taishu Temple. They were like immature boys. This was an impression that was rooted in the bottom of one's heart. It would quietly and subconsciously affect one's judgment on other matters. For Xianmen Tianzong and Xiao Yan, this was a dilemma. It was even more troublesome than Dao Master Qing Ning directly pointing out Tang Jun's negligence. He had given Tang Jun pointers. Although he was accusing Xianmen Tianzong of losing face, it was not shameful for Tang Jun. After all, Tang Jun was only a Yuanying stage cultivator, while Dao Master Qing Ning was the highest elder of Taishu Temple who had been famous for more than 10,000 years and was at the Dao integration realm. If he had no other intentions, as the top authority on alchemy in the Divine Land, giving Tang Jun some pointers in this aspect might have become a good story. It would also ease the tense atmosphere caused by the tit-for-tat confrontation between Tang Jun and Chong Ling. Although Chong Ling had suffered in front of Tang Jun, Dao Master Qing Ning had come to get back at him, which was a bit like bullying. However, Dao Master Qing Ning had indeed come to get back at him. He didn't stare at Tang Jun, but he swept Xiao Yan in. After suppressing Xiao Yan, Tang Jun was naturally nothing. If Xiao Yan couldn't say anything, Xianmen Tianzong would undoubtedly lose more face. Dao Master Qing Ning didn't need to be aggressive to improve Tang Jun's alchemy technique. He could do Gu Yuan a favor. After all, Gu Lianqing had also been defeated by Tang Jun. Even if Xiao Yan gave an answer, as long as it didn't exceed the scope of Dao Master Qing Ning's answer, even if the two improved methods were exactly the same, the inherent impression of a teacher testing a student would be left behind. Dao Master Qing Ning could easily suppress Xiao Yan. Unless the answer given by Xiao Yan was even more outstanding than Dao Master Qing Ning's. Dao Master Qing Ning was very confident in himself before, but at this moment when he saw Xiao Yan, who was usually like a raging fire, suddenly become unhurried, an ominous premonition suddenly rose in his heart. Xiao Yan casually said, "Does Dao Master Qing Ning feel that there is no problem? But I feel that there is still a problem. When my disciple and nephew Lianqing pulled the pill out of the cauldron, other than the change in the real and illusory Li, everything else was similar." Xiao Yan's finger gently tapped the flowing azure cauldron. "But Dao Master Qing Ning, what do you think will happen when the pill is pulled out of the cauldron and the Li is pulled out for half a turn?" "Huh!" Dao Master Qing Ning's pupils suddenly shrank. Gu Yuankai's snow-white eyebrows also gently trembled. For the first time since he appeared, the expression on his face had become slightly serious. Their eyelids gently drooped, and their eyes flashed. Whether it was for Xiao Yan or for them, the level of the qi-converting pill was too low, so they did not need to open the cauldron to refine the pill themselves. As long as they simulated it in their minds, they could roughly know the result. The result of the deduction made the light in Tao Master Qing Ning's eyes slightly dim, but Gu Yuankai's expression did not change. He looked up at Xiao Yan with a slightly complicated gaze. The current successor of the ancient emperor, the best alchemist, was not Gu Jun, who was at the first tribulation stage, but Gu Yuankai, who was standing here. Xiao Yan's expression was calm and indifferent. Tao Master Qing Ning did not speak, but Gu Yuankai sighed. On the basis of the original two improvements, when opening the cauldron and pulling out the pill, the Li will be pulled out for half a turn. I am 100% sure that I can refine 14 pills. Everyone on the second floor of the Black Spirit Palace, including Xiao Zhen'er and Xianmen Tianzong, gasped. Duanmu Hong pulled Yan Wui's sleeve and murmured, "Grandmaster is so powerful." His unintentional words immediately resonated with the hearts of everyone present. To be able to surpass Tao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai in the way of alchemy, this would not only shock all the cultivators in the world who were obsessed with alchemy, but also the entire Divine Land and even the entire Great Tianyuan world. At this time, even if Xiao Yan, Gu Yuankai, and Tao Master Qing Ning were present, they could not stop the suppressed discussion from rising in the crowd. Tao Master Qing Ning can almost be regarded as the best alchemist in the Divine Land. I am afraid that only ninth great uncle can be compared to him. But now, even the two of them can't beat Elder Xiao of Xianmen Tianzong? Not necessarily. After all, the level of Qi restoration pill is too low. Elixirs have their own limit. I can only say that Elder Xiao of Xianmen Tianzong is better than Tao Master Qing Ning and ninth great uncle in alchemy at the Yuanying stage, but it does not mean that he is the same at the higher levels. After all, he has only reached the primordial soul stage for a limited period of time. He cannot compare with the two of them who have studied and practiced for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. The time they have spent in alchemy is longer than his age, and the top herbs and elixir recipes he has come into contact with are definitely not more than the two of them. The gap in knowledge and experience is too big. Yes, in fact, he may not be better than Ancestor Qing Ning and Tao Master Ling Ju even if they are below the primordial soul stage. He is only slightly better at refining the Qi restoration pill. This kind of flash of inspiration is not unheard of in the process of alchemy. Many elixir recipes are improved because of this. Xiao Yan did not say much about the discussions of the crowd. He smiled slightly and looked at Tang Jun, Yang Tai, and the others. This is a rare opportunity. It is also a good thing for you to exchange pointers with fellow Taoists. After saying this, he cupped his fists towards Tao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai. Elders, please go ahead. I will take my leave first. Tao Master Qing Ning looked at Xiao Yan and slowly said, "Fellow Xiao really has a deep understanding of the Tao of alchemy. It makes this old man feel refreshed. If you don't mind, please stay for a moment and let's have a good exchange." At this moment, his words were much calmer, no longer relying on his seniority and condescension. However, it made Xiao Yan's heart sink slightly and he became vigilant. Tao Master Qing Ning looked at Gu Yuankai. "Fellow Gu, we are all old. Although our interests have not diminished, our progress in the way of alchemy has been decreasing over the years. It has gradually stagnated. We can only ponder on it on our own, and it is inevitable that we will gradually become complacent. It is rare for fellow Xiao to emerge. We have an alchemy master to exchange experiences with. The three of us will follow the example of the ancients and have a small elixir meeting. What do you two think?" Gu Yuankai narrowed his eyes. Elixir meetings were more common in ancient times. Xia Huang and the ancient emperor, two human sovereigns of similar eras, were both top alchemy masters. Under their guidance, the Divine Land's alchemy techniques were greatly developed, and there would often be grand meetings of alchemy and alchemy competitions. Even the Emperor of the Underworld, who reigned between the two of them, actually had extremely high attainments in the way of alchemy. During the long years of the three great Renhuang's reign, elixir gatherings of various sizes, high and low levels, could be seen everywhere in the vast land of the Divine Prefecture. Even the three Renhuangs had personally held a grand elixir gathering. That was the golden age of the way of alchemy. After entering the Middle Era, although there would be grand meetings from time to time, they were far less prosperous than in ancient times. However, Gu Yuankai did not think that Tao Master Qing Ning really wanted to exchange alchemy experiences with him and Xiao Yan. His proposal was naturally for an essential matter at the elixir meeting. Alchemy competition, alchemy battle. Tao Master Qing Ning was officially going to compete with Xiao Yan. Looking at the calm Tao Master Qing Ning, Gu Yuankai sighed slightly. Tao Master Qing Ning was trying to regain the face he had just lost, but he was also excited by the prospect. Xiao Yan's level in alchemy far exceeded Tao Master Qing Ning's and Gu Yuankai's expectations. This surprised the two old men and made their hands itch. Not to mention Tao Master Qing Ning, even Gu Yuankai wanted to see how high the level of alchemy the young man in front of him, who was less than a fraction of his age, was at. Whether it was Gu Yuankai or Tao Master Qing Ning, they were quite obsessed with the way of alchemy. Suddenly, there was an expert in the same field, so it was inevitable that they would want to compete. Gu Yuankai and Tao Master Qing Ning, for various reasons, although they knew each other, they had never really competed. Now that there was suddenly an opportunity in front of them, and there was also a shocking Xiao Yan joining in, Gu Yuankai's interest was immediately piqued. However, Gu Yuankai was not without doubt. He looked at Tao Master Qing Ning and said, "Does he have other ideas? Alchemy battle, alchemy competition, wait, could it be that he wants to?" A light flashed in his mind and Gu Yuankai's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. His expression became slightly complicated, but he did not raise any objections. The Elixir Association, the three of us? Xiao Yan was also a little surprised. He looked at Tao Master Qing Ning and asked, "How do we compete?" Slowly, Tao Master Qing Ning said, "Everyone will rely on their own ability to refine a kind of elixir. First, we will compare the efficacy of the elixir. The higher the quality of the elixir, the better. If there is a clear difference in the level of the elixir, other factors will not be considered. The superior elixir will win. If there is no clear difference in the level of the elixir, then we will compare the quality of the elixir, the number of elixirs, and the time taken to refine the elixir." Xiao Yan crossed his arms with interest and said, "Some elixirs may not be refined in decades or even centuries. Are we going to compete in hundreds or thousands of years?" "Naturally, there will be a deadline," Tao Master Qing Ning replied without hesitation, "so choosing what kind of elixir to refine is also a test. It tests the alchemist's ability to grasp their own level and time. It tests the balance between the speed of refining elixir and the quality of the elixir." Xiao Yan nodded, a faint smile on his face. He stared at Tao Master Qing Ning and said, "In the ancient Elixir Association, there was an alchemy battle, and there were other things to pay attention to. Could it be that we also have one this time?" Chapter 1079. Particular? What particular? Duanmu Hong looked at Yen Wei curiously and saw that Yen Wei was also at a loss. Tang Jun had returned to the crowd of Xianmen Tianzong disciples. Yang Tai, Tan Yunqing, Yen Wei, and the others all looked at him. In the ancient era's elixir gathering, let's not talk about simple exchanges. If it was an alchemy battle or alchemy competition, there would be a wager. Tang Jun said in a low voice. The wager was decided by both sides. It could be an extremely rare elixir, an elixir, or even an elixir recipe. What's more, there were cases where the loser became the medicine boy of the winner. Xiao Yan looked at Tao Master Qing Ning with a faint smile on his face. Tao Master Qing Ning looked calm and nodded. "Although there are only 3 people, I think that although the scale of our elixir gathering is small, its level is not low. Why not follow the customs of the ancient times? The younger disciples present were shocked. They did not expect that the alchemy competition between Tang Jun and Gu Lianqing would develop into a competition between the strongest alchemists of the three forces. It would become an elixir gathering. Was the elixir gathering small? Very small. There were only 3 people participating. It could not be called a gathering. Was the elixir gathering big? It was very large, because the people who participated in the alchemy gathering, even if they were placed in the archaic epoch, the alchemy gathering would still be a showdown between peak experts. The standard was so high that only the alchemy gathering personally convened by the human emperor could compare. Whether it was Dao Master Qing Ning or Gu Yuankai, they could almost represent the highest level of alchemy in the divine land. Now, there was also Xiao Yan, a rising star who had shocked Dao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai not long ago. Even if there were only 3 people participating, this competition could definitely be called the pinnacle of alchemy in the divine land in the past thousands of years. It could already be called a grand event. Xiao Yan laughed soundlessly. Since that's the case, it should be a matter of course that Dao Master Qing Ning will be the first to reveal your stake. Dao Master Qing Ning said calmly, "Of course. My wager is the elixir recipe of the 10 Saints' golden elixir." The Black Spirit Temple suddenly became quiet. Everyone present, even if they were young and did not know alchemy, had a strong background. How could they not know the 10 Saints' golden elixir? This was what the Taishu Temple possessed, and at the same time, it was also the most famous top-grade spirit pills, immortal pills, and divine pills in the human cultivation world of the vast divine continent. Even the Void Temple itself was extremely limited in quantity, and refining it was even more difficult. Right now, in the Void Temple, only Dao Master Qing Ning could refine this pill. It was said that there were hundreds of materials needed to refine it. The 10 main ingredients required the blood of a great saint from the demon clan who had at least an immortal demon soul from 10 different races. Hence, it was called the 10 Saints' Golden Elixir. The higher the cultivation of the great saint from the demon clan, the better the effect of the elixir. This elixir had many effects such as nourishing vitality and healing injuries. However, the most eye-catching effect was that there was a certain chance that a primordial soul expert could break through to the next realm. This effect was similar to the fairy spirit dew produced by Lady Umbrella Fairy from the Demon Clan. Lady Umbrella Fairy's fairy spirit dew did not need the help of other materials to refine. It had this effect on its own, but it could only be produced naturally and could not be activated. After it was produced once, it would take a long time to wait for the next time. Moreover, the amount of it could be produced at one time was very limited. At the same time, Lady Umbrella Fairy's fairy spirit dew was more effective on the demon clan. As for the 10 Saints' golden elixir, it was mainly effective on the primordial soul realm experts of the human clan. Zhu Hongwu was able to break through to the path integration realm in less than 20 years in the vast thousand worlds after refining his spirit to return to the void. Besides the fact that he had accumulated a lot in the primordial soul incarnation realm, he had also obtained a 10 Saints golden elixir from Taishu Temple after the Xian-destroying war. The inside story was a secret between the Taishu Temple and the Great Zhou dynasty. Very few people knew about it. Now, what Dao Master Qing Ning had used as a wager was not the 10 Saints golden elixir itself, but the elixir formula. This was even more precious. It could be said to be one of the most precious elixir formulas in the divine land. It was also one of the most precious treasures. Even though Gu Yuan had some guesses about Dao Master Qing Ning's intentions, he was still shocked. A 10 Saints golden elixir as a wager is enough. You actually used the elixir formula directly? Gu Yuan looked at Dao Master Qing Ning in surprise. Dao Master Qing Ning smiled and shook his head. How can there not be a matching wager for such a grand event? Dao Master Qing Ning looked at Xiao Yan. I wonder what fellow Xiao Yan thinks. Xiao Yan could be considered the calmest person among the people present. He looked at Tao Master Qing Ning and said with a smile, "Do you have to play it so big? Forgive me for being rude. Tao Master Qing Ning, although you are the #1 alchemist in your sect, the 10 Saints Golden Elixir was not created by you. The elixir formula should not be considered yours, right? I'm afraid it is not up to you to decide whether it can be used as a wager for the elixir competition. Such a grand event is rarely seen in 1,000 or even 10,000 years. As senior brother Qing Ning said, there must be a matching wager." A white cloud appeared on the second floor of the Black Spirit Temple. The cloud dispersed and 2 streams of air, one black and one white, intertwined. Person walked out. It was the current temple master of the Taishu Temple, Yen Nanlai. There was another person beside him. It was Wu Mingqi, the highest elder of the Taishu Temple, like Tao Master Qing Ning. As soon as Wu Mingqi appeared, he frowned slightly. He looked at Xiao Yan with a hint of doubt in his eyes. Xiao Yan's expression did not change. He faced it calmly. The void beside him suddenly opened. Purple qi surged and a tall figure stepped out. It was Lin Feng's god of war avatar. Behind Lin Feng, Zhu Yi Yangqing, and Li Yuanfang also followed him out of the void. At the same time, Gu Yuankai's body was surrounded by light. The current clan master of the Gu clan, Gu Jun, and another Dao integration expert of the Gu clan, Gu Qing, also came to the second floor of the Black Spirit Temple. Not only Xiao Yan, Dao Master Qing Ning, and Gu Yuankai, but the leaders of the 3 forces also came. Lin Feng's eyes were as calm as water. Silently, he looked at Yen Nanlai and Dao Master Qing Ning and said, "The wager is indeed not small. What do you want to win from our sect?" Dao Master Qing Ning said slowly, "I have been obsessed with the elixir Dao for a long time. I have more or less understood most of the elixir recipes in the Divine Land. However, I have never had the chance to see the elixir called the 33 Days Fortune Elixir of your sect. If the master of the Celestial Sect agrees, I hope to bet the elixir recipe of the 10 Saints Golden Elixir on your sect's elixir recipe." Lin Feng and Xiao Yan, master and disciple, curled the corners of their mouths at the same time, revealing a faint smile. Most of the others present were at a loss and shocked. Many disciples of Xianmen Tianzong had only heard of the 33 Days Fortune Elixir, but they had no understanding of it. Most of the younger disciples of Taishu Temple and the ancient world of immortals had never even heard of it. They really did not understand why Dao Master Qing Ning would bet the famous 10 Saints Golden Elixir recipe on such an unknown elixir recipe. Gu Jun, Gu Qing, and Gu Yuankai did not look surprised. The 3 elders of the ancient clan looked at each other and could see from each other's eyes that they had expected it. Gu Jun looked at Gu Yuankai. Gu Yuankai's expression was calm. He used his magic power to send a sound transmission. "This might be our chance. The elixir recipes of the longevity pill and the treasure lotus pill are not good." Gu Jun's gaze swept across Yen Nanlai and Lin Feng's faces, his eyes becoming somewhat deep. Gu Yuankai was slightly stunned. The longevity pill and the treasure lotus pill were the top elixir recipes of the ancient clan. They were not much inferior to the 10 Saints Golden Elixir. "Does Patriarch not have confidence in me?" Gu Yuankai slowly asked. Gu Jun's expression was indifferent. "It still depends on whether or not the 2 are willing." Gu Yuankai was silent for a moment, then he nodded and said, "My wager is not the elixir recipe, but it will not disappoint the 2 of you. I will use my clan's desolate spirit spring as a betrothal gift. I believe it will not disappoint today's grand occasion." Gu Lianqing and the other ancient clan disciples were shocked. The desolate spirit spring was a treasure of the ancient clan. There were a total of 3 springs, and the spring's mouth was not fixed in one place. Instead, it was like a crack in the void, and sweet spring water flowed out of it. After the elixir was refined, it was like soaking in the desolate spirit spring water. It could increase the medicinal effect of the elixir, and the extent of the increase depended on the specific situation. If one really had to compare, it was hard to say which was more important compared to the elixir recipes of the longevity pill and the treasure lotus pill. However, after hearing Gu Yuankai's words, Gu Jun did not have any intention of objecting. I have long heard of the wonders of the desolate spirit spring. This treasure can naturally be used as a betrothal gift. Lord's spiritual awareness is too polite. Lin Feng and Yen Nanlai nodded at the same time. Lin Feng looked at Yen Nanlai and thought, Taishu Temple should not be so slow. It is most likely that during the Xian extermination war, they had already started to pay attention to it through Xiao Yan and the others when they proved their primordial spirit. Then, they verified it through Gu Yuankai. Strictly speaking, the value of the 10 Saints Golden Elixir was not inferior to that of the 33 Heavens Fortune Immortal Pill. In fact, in terms of medicinal effect, it was even slightly better. According to Lin Feng's speculations, the 10 Saints Golden Elixir's success rate for primordial spirit cultivators to break through should not be as good as the 33 Heavens Fortune Immortal Pill's success rate for primordial spirit cultivators. However, it was still an increase in the primordial spirit level, so it was normal for the success rate to be lower. And from a certain point of view, the gathering of the raw materials for the 10 Saints Golden Elixir was even more difficult than the 33 Heavens Fortune Immortal Pill. It could be said that there were advantages and disadvantages. Taishu Temple had used the 10 Saints Golden Elixir recipe as a wager. They had really put in a lot of effort. But Tao Master Qing Ning also displayed enough confidence that he would definitely win. This caused many to raise their eyebrows. But unfortunately, this is indeed a rare event. Since Yen Monastery Master and Tao Master Qing Ning have such intentions, I, Xianmen Tianzong, will also have to embarrass myself. Lin Feng said lightly, My disciple, Xiao Yan, will participate in this elixir gathering. The wager for this elixir competition is our sect's 33 Heavens Fortune Immortal Pill recipe. As Lin Feng spoke, he changed the topic. However, your monastery's wager needs to be changed. Chapter 1080. Hearing Lin Feng's words, Yen Nanlai and Tao Master Qing Ning looked at each other. Yen Nanlai asked, What do you mean, sect leader Lin? Lin Feng said calmly, 10 Saints Golden Elixir, Divine Advent Golden Elixir, Life Substitution Elixir, Divine Wisdom Elixir. Yen Nanlai, Tao Master Qing Ning, and Wu Mingqi's expressions suddenly became interesting. The disciples of the Taishu Temple were in disbelief. Even Gu Jun and the other ancient clan members had a strange expression on their faces. 10 Saints Golden Elixir, one of the top 4 elixirs in the Taishu Temple's collection. It was first created by Emperor Chong in the Archean Age, and the recipe later fell into the hands of the Taishu Taoist. This elixir could nourish vitality, heal injuries, and many other effects. Experts of the primordial spirit embodiment realm or the void return realm who took this elixir could increase the success rate of breaking through to a higher realm. Divine Advent Golden Elixir, one of the top 4 elixirs in the Taishu Temple's collection. After taking it, it could have the effect of Divine Advent protection. The elixir's effect would be hidden in the user's body. In a critical moment, it could transform into the Divine Advent protection light and bless the user's body with a strong defensive effect. As long as the elixir's effect did not dissipate, it could be activated more than once. However, when taken by the Taishu Temple cultivators, its main effect was to help the cultivator withstand the 9 Heavens baptism. While strengthening the cultivator's body in all aspects, it could also help the cultivator comprehend the most powerful combat ability of the Taishu Temple, the 9 Heavens technique of Taishu. The 9 Heavens baptism was the top baptism ceremony in the Taishu Temple, but it had high requirements for the cultivator and even came with certain risk. Those who took the Divine Advent Golden Elixir could ignore the risks and lower the requirements for the cultivator. Life Substitution Elixir, one of the top 4 elixirs in the Taishu Temple's collection. It was first created by the alchemists in the Archean Age. After the Archean Age was destroyed, the elixir's recipe was obtained by the Taishu Temple. After taking this elixir, the cultivator could have a death substitution effect. Except for a few special circumstances, it could be used to save the cultivator and allow the cultivator to revive in another place to escape certain death. The Supreme Treasure Divine Wisdom Pill, one of the top 4 spirit pills in the Void Temple's collection. After a cultivator consumes it, their mind will become even more agile and clear, and their comprehension of the principles of heaven and earth will become even more thorough. Legend has it that the main ingredient is one of the 4 great spiritual plants of heaven and earth, the ginseng fruit, the fruit of the ginseng fruit tree. The divine land of the heaven primal world was vast. Since the immemorial age, the human cultivation world had been developing the art of alchemy. After countless predecessors developed and studied it, many top-notch elixirs with different effects were born. However, for some reason or another, many elixirs and medicines had been lost to the world, and their recipes had been destroyed. There were even some elixirs that didn't have a single finished product left, and they had been completely buried in the long river of history. The Void Temple's 4 great spirit pills have an illustrious reputation and are widely known in the entire divine continent. But in the Middle Age, there was a scandal in the Taishu Temple. That was one of the few blemishes in the long history of this super-sacred land. At that time, a grand elder of the Taishu Temple suddenly destroyed his own elixir pavilion when the war between the 2 worlds was in full swing. He took all the top elixir recipes of the Taishu Temple and left the sect, disappearing without a trace. It was chaotic at that time. The Taishu Temple had no time to deal with this person. When they wanted to search for him after the war, he had already disappeared. At that time, the Yuhuang Heavenly Sea began to rise in the Tianhuang vast land. The conflict between the righteous and demonic paths in the divine land became more and more intense. The Taishu Temple could only grit its teeth and swallow the bitter pill. In the recent thousands of years, the Taishu Temple had some free time. It was difficult to find the traitor elder again. This internal strife caused a great setback to the development of alchemy in the Taishu Temple. If it wasn't for the rise of Tao Venerable Qing Ning, this matter would have been a disaster for the path of alchemy in the Taishu Temple. Lin Feng didn't pay attention at the beginning because his 33 Heavenly Fortune Immortal Pill and Heaven Spirit Replenishing Pill didn't have similar problems. But later, he slowly discovered that the pill recipes of the heaven primal world were special. The higher the level of a pill, the more bizarre the pill recipe. Even if it was recorded on the physical body, one had to have a certain level of alchemy in order to understand it. For the vast majority of top elixir recipes, it was very difficult to memorize them. When the level of a pill rose to a certain level, the pill recipe would no longer be a simple list of herbs and technique. It would be integrated with many mysterious principles of the heavens and earth. The traitor elder was the #1 alchemist in the Taishu Temple before Tao Venerable Qing Ning. He was the only one who could memorize the pill recipes. When he escaped, he also took the recorded pill recipes with him. As a result, these pills were nearly lost in the Taishu Temple. After that, with the combined efforts of Tao Venerable Qing Ning and the other elders of the Taishu Temple, they relied on the remaining documents and finished pills in the temple. After many years of research and analysis, sometimes they even had to reinvent themselves. Finally, the majority of the pill recipes were restored. But among the 4 top elixirs, only the 10 Saints Golden Elixir recipe had been completely restored. The other 3 elixirs were still in the research stage. The ancient royal family had recently obtained a fragment of the life substitution heavenly pill. When the Taishu Temple received the news, they naturally attached great importance to it. Without Lin Feng's marriage proposal, Yan Nanlai and Wu Mengqi might not have come, but Tao Venerable Qing Ning would definitely have come to the ancient longevity world. Although the Void Temple tried their best to suppress and conceal the scandal of the past, the matter at that time was really too big. Everyone knew about it and they couldn't cover it up even if they wanted to. It's just that in the current era, the Void Temple dominated the Divine Continent and was the biggest sect, so no one would take the initiative to mention it. But Lin Feng suddenly opened his mouth like a lion. Even Yen Nanlai's expression changed slightly. These 4 types of pills, 3 of each. Who knew that as Lin Feng spoke, the topic suddenly changed. Naturally, the quality must be the best. His sudden gasp caused Yen Nanlai, Dao Venerable Qing Ning, Gu Jun, and the others to blink. Dao Venerable Qing Ning's expression became slightly better. He looked at Lin Feng unhappily. Sect leader Lin, do you mean to say that we only want the pills and not the pill recipe? Lin Feng nodded calmly. Yes, 12 pills. If your sect uses this as a wager, I, Xianmen Tianzong, will use the pill recipe of the 33 Days Fortune Immortal Pill as a wager. What do you think, fellow Taoists? Yen Nanlai and the others fell into deep thought and looked at each other. Dao Venerable Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai were not worried that they could not understand the pill recipe. At the very least, they still had the confidence to do so. Although the pill recipe was a permanent benefit, to truly transform the potential benefits into something within reach, it still required the cooperation of many factors. If there was a slight accident, it might take forever. In particular, the ingredients needed to refine the 33 Days Fortune Immortal Pill were still unknown. It was easy to get stuck. Just like the Supreme Treasure Wisdom Pill, its main ingredient was the ginseng fruit. There had been no trace of the ginseng fruit tree in the Great Tianyuan world for many years. Even if the Taishu Temple obtained the pill recipe, it would still have a slim chance of refining the pill. As for the real pills, once they fell into their hands, their value could immediately be realized. After entering the modern era, the Taishu Temple rose again. It vaguely reappeared in the peak of its former glory. There were many reasons for this. The most important reason was naturally the 2 consecutive generations of geniuses, including the Supreme One Dao Venerable, Shoichi Daishin, Yen Nanlai, and Kuang Heng. In addition, there were many other factors that worked together. One of the important reasons was that in the Middle Era, the alchemy master of the Taishu Temple created the golden elixir of the divine Advent Great Tao. Moreover, the Taishu Temple obtained a considerable number of ginseng fruits during the war between the 2 worlds. Under the irrigation of the 4 great pills, the experts of the Taishu Temple, who already had amazing potential, reached a higher level. A huge amount of resources could not create a top expert, but it could allow those who already had the potential to become a top expert to rise faster, and even go one step further than expected. These experts needed time to completely transform their potential into strength. Thus, they finally erupted in the modern era. If they had not run head-on into the Yu Huang Heavenly Sea, it was hard to say what the current situation would be like. However, it was the alchemy master of the Taishu Temple, who created the golden elixir of the divine Advent Great Tao, who took the pill recipe and fled. He was the one who succeeded, but he was also the one who failed. As a result, only one of the 4 great pills of the Taishu Temple remained. For thousands of years, Dao Venerable Qing Ning spent most of his time squatting in White Cloud Mountain, trying to restore the pill recipe. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. He looked at Yen Nanlai and the others with a smile. After the several elders of the Taishu Temple communicated with their divine senses for a moment, Dao Venerable Qing Ning turned to look at Lin Feng. With a slightly complicated expression, he said, "Okay." The aftermath of the turmoil in the past caused the Taishu Temple to have a certain amount of the 10 Saint Golden Elixir. The Supreme Treasure Wisdom Elixir, the Divine Advent Great Tao Golden Elixir, and the Life Substitution Elixir had been running out. Their numbers were extremely limited, and they had to be carefully calculated and carefully selected for their use. However, if they reduced the number of pills, it would really damage their prestige. It would also greatly damage their momentum of winning the 10-saint golden elixir. At this time, Tao Venerable Qing Ning could only endure. Although Tao Venerable Qing Ning was confident that he wouldn't lose, this was not a matter of his personal honor. It was related to the overall interests of the sect. He needed to consider how to deal with the aftermath if he really lost. If he lost the pill recipe, the other party would have it, but the sect would also have it. However, the more pills they lost, the more they would lose. The 10-saint golden elixir was fine, but for the other 3 pills, even Tao Venerable Qing Ning would feel distressed. 3 pills of each didn't seem much, but no one knew better than him how many pills Taishu Temple had in stock. If one didn't manage the household, one wouldn't know how expensive rice and firewood were. In a situation where one's family wasn't rich, it was inevitable that they would be short-tempered. Even Tao Venerable Qing Ning felt a bit of pressure at this time. The taste of pretending to be fat at one's own cost was definitely not a good one. This also made Tao Venerable Qing Ning feel even more dissatisfied. Using such a small trick, Master of the Celestial Sect, you are disgracing your own status in vain. Or is it that you don't have much confidence in your own disciple, and that's why you are using this method to put pressure on me? In the end, you will only be wasting your efforts. As for what Tao Venerable Qing Ning was thinking at this moment, Lin Feng naturally couldn't know. He only knew that he was very satisfied with the wager on the table. Chapter 1081. Xiao Yan, I'll leave the rest to you. If you lose, we'll lose the 33 days fortune celestial pill, and I'll throw you into Ding of Shenzhou. Lin Feng chuckled and transmitted his voice to Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan chuckled and replied, "That's too scary. I'd rather live in the Yin-Yang Sea." Xiao Yan didn't dare to say that he could beat Tao Venerable Qing Ning in alchemy. Confidence didn't mean blindness. But Xiao Yan was even more fearless. His mental state was as calm as usual. Tao Venerable Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai's excellence made him more determined and full of fighting spirit. That's why I said that the one thing that the Destined One has in common is that they're all born to be Mr. Grand Spectacle. Other things aside, they all have big hearts. Lin Feng has always been very at ease with Xiao Yan. At such a crucial moment, he was even a bit absent-minded. The Void Temple suffered that calamity back then, resulting in the loss of many top-tier pill recipes, having no choice but to slowly recover. But Brothers' pill recipes for the 33 Days Fortune Immortal Pill and the Heaven Spirit Healing Pill don't seem to have this problem, because aren't they the same path? Lin Feng grinned and looked at Gu Jun and the others. Gu Jun didn't say anything and left the decision to Gu Yuankai. Gu Yuankai coughed. "Please follow me. We'll go to the 4th floor of the Black Spirit Temple." He looked at Gu Lianqing and the others. "All of you come together. This is a rare event. It'll be beneficial for all of you." After Gu Yuankai finished speaking, he didn't lead the way to the 3rd floor. Instead, he pointed at the ground and an array appeared. A huge pillar of light shot into the sky, forming a staircase of light. After the staircase appeared, Gu Yuankai stepped forward and led the way. Gu Jun, Lin Feng, Yan Nanlai, and the others followed together. When they stepped on the staircase, the scene in front of them suddenly changed. The sky in front of him flickered alternately between red and blue, changing between light and dark, causing one's eyes to be dazzled. The ground beneath his feet was a dazzling golden color, and it complemented the flashing red and blue sky. When Tao Master Qing Ning saw this, he sighed and said, "The Nanming Longevity Paradise truly lives up to its reputation." Gu Yuankai stepped on the golden land. As he walked forward, he said to Lin Feng, Yan Nanlai, Tao Master Qing Ning, and the others behind him, "In this heavenly abode, it will be very helpful for everyone to open their furnaces. It's not that I want to take advantage of you two. I don't have any geographical advantage in concocting pills in my clan's longevity grotto heaven. The two of you can rest assured. Lin Feng, Xiao Yan, Yen Nanlai, and Tao Master Qing Ning walked together in the cave. Silently, they sensed the changes in the spiritual energy within. After a long while, they all nodded. It wasn't that Gu Jun, Gu Yuankai, Gu Qing, and the others couldn't control the flow of spiritual energy within the cave to secretly help Gu Yuankai. After all, the purpose of the cave's existence was to help the ancient alchemists refine higher quality elixirs. It was reasonable for the power of heaven and earth to be added to one person. However, if Gu Yuankai really did so, Lin Feng and the others would be able to detect it immediately. Therefore, Gu Yuankai wouldn't be stupid enough to cheat in front of them. Taking 10,000 steps back, if Gu Yuankai really has the ability to cheat and also make Lin Feng, Xiao Yan, Yen Nanlai, Tao Venerable Qing Ning and the others unable to detect it, then that is also his ability. Yang Qing looked around and sent a voice transmission to Xiao Yan, eldest senior brother. This cave seems to be related to the Nanmingli fire? Xiao Yan also looked at the alternating red and blue sky with interest. After hearing Yang Qing's question, he answered, when this space was opened, a large amount of Nanmingli fire was smelted. From a certain point of view, you can even think of this as a small world made up of Nanmingli fire. Yang Qing nodded. Not only is alchemy beneficial here, but it's also twice the effect of refining celestial artifacts and refining magic treasures. No matter if it was the disciples of the Celestial Sect of Wonders or the disciples of the Void Temple, at this moment, they were all curiously sizing up the paradise world in front of them. Even the younger generation disciples of the ancient clan, the vast majority of them had never entered this place before. They were filled with yearning towards this paradise that only existed in legends in the past, and now their wishes were finally fulfilled. Everyone walked forward and arrived at the center of the cave. Gu Yuankai's hands formed a seal, and white light appeared on the golden ground. Within the white light, a huge white lotus slowly bloomed, turning into a huge lotus platform that looked like a small city. Gu Yuankai was the first to step onto the lotus platform. He cupped his hands at an old man on the lotus platform. Elder Huanggu, sorry to disturb you. Lin Feng, Xiao Yan, and the others' gazes fell on the lotus platform. They saw an old man dressed in white on the lotus platform. His face had weathered the vicissitudes of life. He calmly nodded at Gu Yuankai, then looked at Lin Feng, Yen Nanlai, and the others. He also nodded in greeting. I am Elder Huanggu. Greetings, you two. Silently stood a huge cauldron beside the old man. It looked ancient, but the most eye-catching thing was that the cauldron was snow-white. It looked somewhat similar to the white lotus platform under everyone's feet. Lin Feng and Yen Nanlai nodded at the same time. You're too kind. This old man was naturally one of the two Mahayana-grade magic treasures of the ancient emperor's bloodline, the treasure spirit of the Huanggu Immortal Cauldron, Immortal Huanggu. I already know what happened. Such a grand event is indeed rare, and I am looking forward to it. Do you need me? Immortal Huanggu asked. Gu Yuankai shook his head slightly. I don't want to trouble Elder Huanggu. He turned to look at Xiao Yan and Tao Master Qing Ning. Do you two have any objections to using this cauldron for alchemy? With a wave of his sleeve, 3 green and black cauldrons landed in front of Gu Yuankai. They were exactly the same, a set of 3 cauldrons. Xiao Yan and Tao Master Qing Ning scanned them with their spiritual senses. They knew that these 3 cauldrons were not magic treasures, but they were still quite good cauldrons. They were not inferior to the Qinglu cauldron, and most importantly, they were exactly the same. It was fair for the 3 of them to use 1 cauldron each, but it naturally couldn't compare to the wonders of the Sun Moon Divine Furnace and the Huanggu Immortal Furnace. However, it was more of a test of one's alchemy skills. Gu Yuankai's gaze mainly fell on Xiao Yan. Although his family had the Huanggu Immortal Furnace and Taishu Temple had the Sun Moon Divine Furnace, Xianmen Tianzong had Ding of Shenzhou. The difference was too great. Even if the Huanggu Immortal Furnace and the Sun Moon Divine Furnace were combined, they still couldn't compare. Although Xiao Yan was still young, the level of alchemy he had shown before was enough to overturn the balance of victory and defeat. Gu Yuankai had no choice but to be a hero. This wasn't a show of weakness, nor was it to diminish his prestige, nor was it a lack of confidence. It was just that he wasn't stupid. Even Tao Master Qing Ning remained silent. Everyone used the same cauldron, and he was confident that he could beat Xiao Yan. However, he used the Sunmoon Divine Furnace and Xiao Yan used Ding of Shenzhou. This was a completely different matter. Even Yan Nanlai and Wu Mengqi fell silent. Not long ago, the ancient gate of heaven's Mahayana Divine Furnace was destroyed. The Huanggu immortal furnace of the ancient emperor lived in seclusion in the immortal ancient world. The heaven and earth cauldron of the primordial demon cult was destroyed. Other powerful cauldrons that had appeared in history were also annihilated one by one. The current top alchemy magic treasure in the Divine Land was the Sun-Moon Divine Furnace of Taishu Temple. It had always made great contributions to the supreme status of Taishu Temple. However, with the appearance of Ding of Shenzhou, this advantage disappeared. From the moment Ding of Shenzhou was refined, it was the strongest alchemy magic treasure in the history of the heaven primal world. It was just that not long after it was successfully refined, it disappeared into the sea of stars and never appeared in the world. Gradually, it became something that only existed in legends. But now, this supreme emperor among alchemy magic treasures had stepped into the human world again. Mahayana magic treasures like the Sun-Moon Divine Furnace and the Huanggu Immortal Furnace had no choice but to bow their heads and retreat. Xiao Yin looked at the tripartite dark star cauldron and said calmly, "I have no objections." Gu Yuankai nodded. "Then, the two of you, let's begin." He used his magic power to pick up a dark star cauldron and lightly tapped his finger on the body of the cauldron. A pill fire burned in the cauldron and a beam of light shot into the sky. Gu Yuankai flicked his finger. A pill that was as black as ink floated above the dark star cauldron. It emitted an ancient aura and was full of vitality. Although it was only a pill, it was like a living being. Moreover, it was a life with incomparable vitality. It was as if it could live forever and never die. This was the top spirit pill of the ancient emperor's lineage, the longevity pill. Seeing this, Xiao Yan smiled. He also used his magic power to pick up a dark star cauldron and ignited the pill fire. A treasure light rose. At the same time, a pill the size of an adult's thumb appeared in his palm. This pill wasn't in the shape of a round ball. It looked more like a gathering of constantly changing clouds. Within that seemingly small cloud, there seemed to be an infinitely vast space condensed there. It was like a heavenly palace in heaven, the 33 heavens. This was the 33 heavens fortune's celestial pill. Xiao Yan's current action was an ancient ritual known as pill light. It originated from the heyday of the ancient alchemy gathering. Before cultivators competed in alchemy, they would first light up their pills. It was a greeting to the passageway to show respect. At the same time, it was also a display of the most outstanding work that they had refined before. It had the intention of subduing the opponent without a fight. On the other hand, apart from competition, the alchemy gathering would also be used for transactions. Usually it was a barter. Thus, cultivators would display their bargaining chips in advance. After pill light was the alchemy battle and alchemy competition. Since Gu Yuankai made this action, Xiao Yan naturally accompanied him. On the other side, Tao Master Qing Ning also did the same. After picking up the third dark star cauldron, he ignited the pill fire and a huge golden elixir the size of a fist appeared in his hand. On the surface of the golden elixir, there were faint shadows of different great demonic beasts. This was naturally the 10 Saints' golden elixir of the Taishu Temple. 3 beams of light shot up into the sky, illuminating the white lotus throne. Lin Feng and the others left the heart of the lotus and stood on the huge white lotus petals. Together, they watched the peak battle that was about to unfold. Chapter 1082. Everyone stood on the petals of the white lotus. Silently, they looked at Xiao Yan, Gu Yuankai, and Tao Master Qing Ning, who were facing each other at the center of the lotus. Although there were only 3 participants in this elixir gathering, all 3 of them were the top alchemists in the human cultivation world. The onlookers were also full of power. There was Xiao Yan's master, Lin Feng, the master of the celestial sect, Taishu Temple's current master, Yan Nanlai, and the Gu clan's current master, Gu Jun. In addition, Zhu Yi, Wu Mingqi, Gu Qing, and the others were also the core figures of their respective forces. "Let's set the time to 7 days," said Gu Yuankai. Gu Yuankai said. Xiao Yan and Tao Master Qing Ning both nodded. Strictly speaking, 7 days wasn't a long time. But the elixir gathering had always been about refining pills that took decades or even hundreds of years to refine, unless it was a private battle. Xiao Yan held the black star furnace in his palm. Alchemic fire ignited in the furnace, but it wasn't the Nan Mingli fire, but the pure Yang real fire. When Gu Yuankai saw this, he wasn't annoyed. He just slightly raised his eyebrows. Is he going to fight with Tao Master Qing Ning? The Nan Mingli fire could be said to be the most suitable fire for refining pills and refining weapons in the world. The alchemic fire in Gu Yuankai's furnace was the Nan Mingli fire. What kind of alchemic fire was used completely depended on the cultivator's ability. This was the same as mastering the pill recipe, mastering the technique, and the strength of the supernatural power. It all depended on one's own ability. Gu Yuankai's use of the Nan Mingli fire couldn't be considered an advantage. Tao Master Qing Ning and Xiao Yan didn't oppose it. If there was a difference in the results of the competition, no one would say anything. In Tao Master Qing Ning's furnace, a pale blue flame ignited. This fire was called the Green Lotus Flower Real Fire. It didn't have much destructive power, but when used for refining pills, it was an extremely top alchemic fire. It was second only to the Nan Mingli fire and not inferior to the pure Yang real fire. Tao Master Qing Ning was also full of confidence. He didn't care about Gu Yuankai using the Nan Mingli fire at all. Instead, he frowned slightly when he saw Xiao Yan use the pure Yang real fire. Xiao Yan also possessed the Nan Mingli fire, which was now known to the whole world, but at this moment, he gave up using the Nan Mingli fire for alchemy and switched to using the pure Yang True Fire, which had a similar effect to the green capsule lotus flower True Flame. It was really hard not to associate it. Because of his relationship with Xiao Zhen'er, and because of the tit-for-tat incident before, not many people would think that Xiao Yan was looking down on Gu Yuankai. Even Gu Yuankai himself didn't think so. The vast majority of people had the same thoughts as Gu Yuankai. Xiao Yan and Tao Master Qing Ning were at loggerheads. Not only did the alchemy cauldron not take advantage of Ding of Shenzhou, but the alchemy fire was also fair. But many people couldn't help but mutter in their hearts, the problem is that in other aspects, you aren't on the same level as Tao Master Qing Ning. To put it nicely, your actions are open and aboveboard. But to put it bluntly, you're arrogant and conceited. You don't have any self-awareness. The disciples of Taishu Temple slightly frowned. How arrogant! This isn't refining the qi revolving pill. The level of the qi revolving pill was too low. There was a limit to the quality of the pill itself. To a primordial soul realm alchemist, there weren't many new tricks that could be used. But some high-level pills were different. There were many problems that involved experience, and there were many more variations and techniques that could be used. Xiao Yan was half a head above Tao Master Qing Ning in refining the qi revolving pill. This surprised everyone. This meant that if both sides were at the Yuanying realm, then in terms of alchemy attainments, Xiao Yan was likely to be superior. A single pill couldn't explain everything, but it was enough to arouse everyone's attention. But after rising to the primordial soul realm, the situation was completely different. This didn't have much to do with the difference in their cultivation realms. The main reason was that Tao Master Qing Ning had reached the primordial soul realm over 10,000 years ago. At this level, it was likely that he had refined more pills than Xiao Yan had ever seen. After all, Xiao Yan hadn't reached the primordial soul realm for long, and his path of alchemy had reached a completely new realm. In this strange and vast world, just how much he had explored was a great question. Under normal circumstances, the people of Taishu Temple and the ancients could almost tacitly agree that Tao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai were capable of crushing Xiao Yan in this level of alchemy. In their expectations, the gap between Xiao Yan and the two old men was similar to the gap between Ding of Shenzhou and the Sun-Moon Divine Furnace. This was also the reason why Tao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai were confident. It was just that Xianmen Tianzong had created too many miracles, and Xiao Yan's previous performance had made them look at him in a new light. So the outcome of this elixir meeting was still in suspense. But at this moment, Xiao Yan had abandoned the Nanmingli fire and chosen the pure Yang real fire. In the eyes of everyone, this was tantamount to ruining some of his hopes. Either he had absolute confidence in himself, or he was too arrogant, or he was purely fighting with Tao Master Qing Ning. If it was the former, it would be too unbelievable. Tao Master Qing Ning looked at this scene and smiled instead of being angry. "Very good, let's see how capable you are." He put his palms together and some medicinal materials fell into the azure lotus flower true flame in the dark star cauldron. Gu Yuankai's expression was calm, his gaze glancing at Gu Jun on the other side. Gu Jun's expression was similarly calm, only sizing up Xiao Yan with an interested gaze. Xiao Yan's expression was even more calm. It was as if he turned a blind eye to the suspicious gazes of the outside world. He calmly threw some medicinal materials into the dark star cauldron and slowly refined them with the pure Yang real fire. Dharma power was injected into the dark star cauldron one after another. The milky white pure Yang real fire did not look vigorous. As it rose and fell, it did not seem to jump like ordinary flames. Instead, it gave people a feeling of slowness. Xiao Yan looked calm and unhurriedly operated the dark star cauldron, giving people a feeling that he was lifting something heavy as if it were light. On the other hand, Tao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai looked the same. When Tang Jun, Gu Lianqing, Chong Ling and the others saw this, they secretly nodded in their hearts and felt a lot of emotions. When the three alchemists greeted each other before the official opening of the elixir gathering, they made a lot of noise. However, at this time, when they really started, it was much calmer. However, this calmness was only on the surface. Above the three people's cauldrons, billowing medicinal fragrance gushed out and turned into clouds of air that condensed above the cauldrons. As time passed, the auspicious clouds above Tao Master Qing Ning's cauldron gradually turned pure gold. The auspicious clouds above Gu Yuankai's cauldron gradually turned cyan. The auspicious clouds above Xiao Yan's cauldron were pure white. The three auspicious clouds floated in the void together, revealing traces of a mysterious concept that moved people's hearts. In this Nanming longevity cave, even the lowest cultivation level was at the foundation establishment stage. It was not a problem for them to not eat for a short period of time. Moreover, just inhaling the medicinal fragrance of the three alchemists into their bodies was enough to dispel all hunger and fatigue. Everyone patiently stood on the lotus platform, silently waiting for the moment when the three alchemists finished their alchemy. In the next 7 days, Xiao Yan, Tao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai all looked calm and focused on alchemy. This was because the three of them looked at ease. Not only did it not make people feel bored, but it also made people feel that time passed quickly. It was not until the 7th day that the situation gradually changed. The three auspicious clouds began to slowly gather towards the center bit by bit. They became more and more condensed, as if they had become solid. Although the speed of time was also a standard of victory in the competition, the three of them unanimously chose to completely open their cauldrons on the last day. the level and quality of the alchemy were obviously the focus of their attention. Lin Feng, Yan Nanlai, Gu Jun, Gu Qing, Zhu Yi, Xiao Zhen'er, Yang Qing, and the others who also had high attainments in the way of alchemy could already see at this moment what the three of them had chosen to refine. To be honest, although the three kinds of alchemy were different, they were all relatively time-consuming in terms of refining time. Even if Xiao Yan and the other two were to refine them, it would be difficult to finish within 7 days. However, the three of them still made their own choices. This elixir gathering was not only a competition between them, but also a challenge and surpassing themselves. This was the confidence and pride of the three top alchemists. They wanted to use powerful opponents to temper themselves and break through their past limit. Seeing this, Lin Feng smiled. Sure enough, all of you are like this. Playing is making my heart beat faster. Finally, when the 7 days were about to end, Gu Yuankai was the first to react. He put his palms together, and the blue auspicious clouds above the cauldron had completely condensed into an emerald-like blue crystal. In the next moment, the blue crystal continued to condense and gradually turned into a blue light. Like a waterfall, it poured back into the dark star cauldron. Almost only a moment later, Tao Master Qing Ning also slapped his palms on the dark star cauldron. The golden auspicious clouds above the cauldron also condensed into a golden crystal. Then, it continued to condense and turned into a golden light that poured back into the dark star cauldron. Gu Yuankai quickly walked around his cauldron. Pale white lotus flowers danced in the air. Gu Yuankai gently slapped his palms on the cauldron. After 81 palms, the golden Nanmingli fire flashing with red and blue light in his cauldron exploded with a loud bang. A dazzling light shot up into the sky. As for Tao Master Qing Ning, he kept his palms on his dark star cauldron and did not let go. Black and white yin and yang mana gathered outside the cauldron, constantly rotating, as if forming a huge vortex. In the center of the vortex, the pale blue flame kept jumping. Slowly, it spread to both sides. Similarly, there was a dazzling light gradually gushing out from it, and the fragrance of medicine filled the air. At the same time, Xiao Yan's side also finally made a big move. It's just that his big move made everyone shocked. The originally calm and leisurely aura in the cauldron suddenly changed. It was full of a violent aura, and the entire dark star cauldron began to shake. Even when Xiao Yan's mana fell one after another, he could not completely stabilize the cauldron. The space around the cauldron distorted violently. Dark cracks split open, and there were void tribulation thunders emerging from them, striking the white auspicious clouds above the cauldron. And in the white auspicious clouds, there was also a ferocious and tyrannical aura. Roars resounded throughout the space, as if a ferocious demon had awakened from a deep sleep. Everyone looked at this scene in surprise. This is the inner demon born from alchemy, causing the elixir tribulation? Chapter 1083. When the level of the pill being refined was relatively high, the process of refining the pill was very likely to produce inner demons, resulting in a pill tribulation. If the inner demons were eliminated properly, the quality of the pills might be improved by another level. However, if the inner demons were not eliminated, the medicinal efficacy of the pills would be completely swallowed by the illusory devil to strengthen itself. Then, the devil would turn illusory into reality and wreak havoc. Naturally, the pills would be completely destroyed. Although resolving the pill tribulation and eliminating the inner demon could improve the quality of the pill, not many alchemists were happy to see the pill tribulation happen. There was no other reason. The difficulty and probability of getting rid of the inner demon was far greater than the probability of the inner demon devouring the elixir. If one wanted to eliminate the inner demons in a pill, it had little to do with the alchemist's cultivation and strength. If one used too much strength, while the inner demons could be eliminated, the entire furnace of pills would be ruined. Their hard work in concocting pills for half a day would all be in vain. Even if it was forcefully suppressed, it could leave traces of hidden dangers in the pill itself. It could even lead to the birth of inner demons in the user's heart. Eradicating it completely depended on the alchemist's alchemy skills and techniques, and it was hard to predict how long it would take. The agreed time limit for the Xiao Yan Trio's pill competition was 7 days. Now that 7 days had passed, if they delayed even a little, even if Xiao Yan was able to successfully eliminate his inner demon and improve the quality of the pill a step further, he would still exceed the time limit. First, they would compare the level of the pill, then the quality, and finally the quantity and time. The prerequisite was that they had to concoct the pill within the time limit. Only then would they compare. What's more, generally speaking, pill calamity occurred because the alchemist made a mistake in his or her alchemy technique, thus triggering the pill calamity. The most likely reason was that the alchemist was too impatient. In the past, during the alchemy conclave and the alchemy battle, pill tribulations occurred frequently. In terms of frequency, it was far more frequent than when cultivators refined pills on their own. Hearing the ferocious roars coming from Xiao Yan's dark star cauldron one after another, as if a ferocious beast was wreaking havoc unceasingly, the surrounding people all had different expressions. Within the Taishu Temple's crowd, Chong Ling coldly snorted. As expected, they are of the same origin. Like master, like disciple. He was too eager for quick success, so much so that he triggered the pill tribulation. Silently, Chen Xingyu looked at Xiao Yan's dark star cauldron and sensed the changes in the spiritual energy within it. Slowly, he shook his head. I'm afraid that Martial Granduncle Qingning and Lord Spiritual Perception are giving him too much pressure. After all, it hasn't been long since he became an essence soul, and he gave up on using the Nan Mingli fire and switched to the pure Yang True fire. Among the younger generation of cultivators in Taishu Temple, he and Chong Ling were the two people with the highest attainments in alchemy. Although Chen Xingyu didn't have the inheritance of Dao Master Qing Ning's lineage, Chen Xingyu's attainments in alchemy were something that even Dao Master Qing Ning praised. Moreover, the amount of time and energy he spent on alchemy was far less than Chong Ling's. This highlighted his outstanding talent. Chong Ling said, he wanted to do this. No one forced him to do it. He was arrogant and wanted to provoke Martial Granduncle, so all the consequences of failure and humiliation can only be borne by him. The people of Xianmen Tianzong are really used to being arrogant. This time, they deserve to have a big fall, someone beside Chong Ling said. Someone beside Chong Ling said, if he really refined a demon and swallowed all the medicinal power, then his participation in this pill gathering would be a joke. Dao Master Qingning and Gu Yuankai also saw the situation on Xiao Yan's side. The two of them only raised their eyebrows slightly before their expressions returned to normal. They had reached the final critical moment of opening the cauldron. After Gu Yuankai struck out with his 81 palms, he took a step forward and slapped both palms on his dark star cauldron. He shouted, "Open!" The Nanmingli fire in the mouth of the cauldron soared into the sky and turned into a golden pillar of fire. Red and blue light constantly circled around it. When the flames dissipated, the dark star cauldron was revealed. Within the multicolored light, a white lotus slowly rose and floated in the air. It gradually grew in the wind and became extremely huge, just like the giant white lotus that everyone was standing on. The petals of the white lotus formed by the multicolored light slowly bloomed layer by layer. In the center of the lotus, there were a total of 18 cyan lights flashing from the blooming white lotus. This was the panacea that Gu Yuankai had refined. The phenomenon that appeared when the panacea came out of the cauldron was not illusory. Instead, it had truly condensed into a solid form. It caused one's mind to tremble, and one could clearly feel the majestic medicinal power and mysterious intent within it. On the other side, at the same time, Dao Master Qing Ning's hands that had been pressing on his cauldron suddenly loosened and he withdrew. Following his movements, the black and white vortex that had been constantly rotating around the cauldron suddenly dispersed and turned into clouds that floated in the air. It was like a sea of black and white clouds that submerged the small city of white lotuses beneath everyone's feet. The cyan flames disappeared without a trace. A thick golden pillar of light rose from the ground and enveloped Tao Master Qing Ning and his dark star cauldron. Within the golden pillar of light, 9 dots of light rose together. They were dazzling and dazzling like 9 small suns. Gu Yuankai looked at the 9 golden elixirs that rose into the air like 9 small suns. He exclaimed, 9 Yang Spirit Elixir. Tao Master Qing Ning's attainments in the way of alchemy are indeed amazing. Although he had 18 elixirs here and Tao Master Qing Ning only had 9, it did not mean that Tao Master Qing Ning had lost in terms of quantity. This was the difference caused by the amount of raw materials that both sides had put into the cauldron and the different elixirs they had refined. Tao Master Qing Ning's raw materials had reached the theoretical limit of refining the 9 Yang Spirit Elixir in front of him. If he did not waste any medicinal materials, he would be able to refine 9 elixirs. In terms of quantity, he had already reached the limit. Similarly, if Gu Yuankai's raw materials were not wasted, he would be able to refine 18 elixirs at most. He had also reached the limit without any flaws. Therefore, in terms of quantity, both sides had achieved perfection. It was a draw. Tao Master Qing Ning's gaze also fell on the 18 cyan elixirs that Gu Yuankai had refined. He nodded repeatedly. Tao Master Gu is too polite. Today, I have personally witnessed Tao Master Gu refine this cauldron of divine elixir. It has truly been an eye-opener for me. In the Taishu Temple camp, Wu Mengqi looked at the elixirs that Gu Yuankai had refined and then at Tao Master Qing Ning's. He slowly said, I used to think that senior brother Qing Ning's alchemy was unparalleled in the world and that he was the #1 alchemist in the divine land. Only today did I know that there is someone who can compete with Tao Master Qing Ning. Let's not talk about his cultivation and strength. At least in the Tao of alchemy, he is an expert on the same level as senior brother Qing Ning. Yan Nanlai said, Tao Master Spiritual Awareness Gu Yuankai is the descendant of the ancient sovereign. He is currently the #1 alchemist. In terms of the Tao of alchemy, he is above Clan Master Gu Jun. Everyone was carefully analyzing the elixirs that both sides had refined. Although the 9 Yang Spirit Elixir was not as good as top elixirs like the 10 Saints Golden Elixir or the God Descending Great Tao Golden Elixir, it was still a secret elixir of the Taishu Temple. It had healing and nourishing effects on the divine soul. The Divine Enlightenment Elixir was a secret elixir of the ancient clan. It was also not as good as the Longevity Elixir or the Lotus Treasure Elixir, but it was still an outstanding elixir. It had miraculous effects on healing and nourishing the body. In terms of the level of elixirs, the 2 elixirs belonged to the same level. They were equally matched. Lin Feng, Gu Jun, and Yan Nanlai acted as judges. After carefully sensing the quality of the 2 elixirs, Lin Feng slowly said, They are evenly matched. It is hard to tell who is better. This was a fair statement. Gu Jun and Yan Nanlai nodded. Gu Yuankai and Tao Master Qing Ning, who had the deepest understanding of the quality of each other's elixirs, also nodded. In this round, both sides were tied. In terms of time, although Gu Yuankai pulled the elixir an instant earlier than Tao Master Qing Ning, the 2 finished at the same time. It was still a tie. Moreover, whether it was the 9 Yang Spirit Elixir or the Divine Enlightenment Elixir, in theory, they were elixirs that could not be refined in 7 days. It was the same even if Tao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai were refining elixirs. But today both of them had broken through their limit. In this round of competition, whether it was the level of the elixirs refined, the quality of the elixirs, the number of elixirs, or the speed of refining, no matter how they compared, the result was a tie. This also surprised everyone. Gu Yuankai had also opened the eyes of the people from Taishu Temple and Xianmen Tianzong. To be able to fight to a tie with Tao Master Qing Ning, who had always been known as the human clan's best alchemist, this old man's attainments in alchemy were truly admirable. Although this was the ancient clan's home ground, the Nanming Longevity Paradise, Lin Feng and Yen Nanlai were sure that Gu Yuankai did not have any geographical advantage. However, at this point, in most people's hearts, although Gu Yuankai was an alchemist expert at the same level as Tao Master Qing Ning, he was still slightly inferior to Tao Master Qing Ning. This was because his alchemy fire, the Nanmingli fire, was superior to Tao Master Qing Ning's green lotus flower true flame. Although alchemy fire was part of an alchemist's own strength, and no one would really use it as an excuse, when all other standards were tied and the winner could not be determined, the difference in alchemy fire would naturally be noticed. Even if it was not said, it would still affect the opinion of others. Gu Yuankai did not say anything, but he had the same thought. The onlookers were mesmerized. This is really a top event. They are evenly matched and fighting fiercely. It's an eye-opener. However, the other person who participated in the elixir gathering is a bit like someone who made up the numbers. Chong Ling snorted. Not only is he making up the numbers, but he has also brought shame to such a top elixir gathering. If it weren't for Grandmaster and Tao Master Ling Ju, this elixir gathering would simply become a joke. Gu Qing sighed and transmitted his voice to Gu Jun beside him. Royal brother, it seems that we can't hand over the desolate spirit spring to Xianmen Tianzong. Instead, we have to give it to Taishu Temple. After all, using this method is too risky. Oh, is that so? Gu Jun smiled. I don't think so. Gu Qing came to his senses and looked to the other side of the lotus seat. There was a youth who seemed to have been forgotten by everyone, a youth who had been reduced to a foil for Tao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai. It was as if his existence was to prove how outstanding the two elders were. But at this moment, the ferocious beast roar suddenly became low and weak. A giant 8 trigrams appeared out of thin air, condensed from golden light. It appeared between Xiao Yan's palms and suppressed the shaking dark star cauldron. Chapter 1084. Xiao Yan put his palms together in front of his chest. A golden 8 trigrams appeared in the air between his palms and landed on the dark star cauldron. The ferocious roar that sounded like that of a ferocious beast gradually became softer, revealing a sense of being at the end of the road. Everyone was stunned. Is he going to successfully get rid of his inner demon? Time. What time is it now? Suddenly, someone reacted. The person beside him pondered for a moment and was shocked. Starting from the opening of the cauldron, strictly speaking, there is less than the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn before the 7-day deadline. Everyone looked at Xiao Yan. Can he make it in time? Even if he can, he is slower than Grandmaster in terms of speed. I don't believe that his cauldron of pills can beat Grandmaster's 9 yang spirit pills in other aspects. Chong Ling gritted his teeth. What's more, he may not be able to successfully concoct this cauldron of pills. Getting rid of his inner demon and calming the pill tribulation is definitely not an easy task, especially to calm it down in a short period of time. It is even more difficult. He may make the mistake of rushing again and explode his own cauldron. Chen Xingyu stared at Xiao Yan's dark star cauldron and said in a low voice, "Calm down. Watch his movements carefully." Chong Ling was stunned. He looked at Xiao Yan again and realized that Xiao Yan's expression was calm as usual. There was not the slightest hint of impatience on his face. His actions of using the golden 8 trigrams to suppress the inner demon pill tribulation looked as natural and smooth as flowing water. Streams of transcendence energy fell into the pill cauldron. His movements were slow and smooth, even carrying a strange rhythm. This gave Chong Ling a strange feeling. That is that Xiao Yan seems to have done this kind of thing often, to the point that it's as familiar as breathing, incomparably natural. Suppress the pill tribulation? Unusually familiar? What is going on? How is this possible? Chong Ling was slightly dazed. It can't be that every time he concocted a pill, he would trigger the pill tribulation, right? This is ridiculous. Chong Ling subconsciously shook his head, but an uneasy feeling rose in his heart. As he thought about it, he felt more and more uneasy. That was because he suddenly remembered that when the pill tribulation had just begun and the inner demons of the pill had just appeared, Xiao Yan's expression hadn't been the slightest bit flustered or surprised. It was as if everything had been within his expectations. Perhaps it should be said that it was more like a habit that had become natural, unperturbed. Yi Xinhui's confused voice came from Xianmen Tianzong's camp. Eldest martial granduncle doesn't seem to care about the pill tribulation at all. What's going on? He looked at his master, Yang Tai, in surprise. Yang Tai was also baffled. His eyes were filled with doubt, but he seemed to understand something. He seemed to have some guesses in his mind. Yang Tai looked at Tang Jun, Yen Wuwei, Duanmu Hong, and the other Funtianya disciples. Yen Wuwei smiled and said, "Master has always been like this when he concocts higher-level pills. I have rarely seen it in recent years. However, little Duanmu has always been Master's pill boy, so it's definitely not strange." Duanmu Hong said, "That's right. When Grandmaster refines higher-level pills, he will trigger the pill tribulation every time and then subside the pill tribulation. He said that the pills refined this way are of higher quality." When he said that, most of the people present were dumbfounded. Duanmu Hong looked at their expressions, and his expression became even more strange. Isn't this something that should be done? Martial ancestors specifically demonstrated that the quality of pills that have been tempered by the pill tribulation is indeed better than those that have not. This is a fact. Why do you all look so surprised? His following words were lowered, and he was purely muttering to himself. I'm the one who is curious. Why didn't the two old seniors use this method? Although Duanmu Hong's muttering was soft, many people could hear it clearly. For a moment, everyone's expressions were extremely interesting. Bragging, right? Not only did he not avoid the pill tribulation, but he also initiated the pill tribulation and used it to improve the quality of the pills? Where did he get the confidence to subside the pill tribulation every time? Who can guarantee that he can definitely subside the pill tribulation? A junior disciple of the ancient clan was tongue-tied. Gu Lianqing also had a shocked expression. That's too difficult. It's not that it's impossible to subside the pill tribulation, but the probability of success is far lower than the probability of failure. How can he use the pill tribulation as a frequent alchemy method? Chong Ling shook his head continuously. Absurd, too absurd. Everyone in Xianmen Tianzong is so absurd and arrogant. If this isn't seeking instant success and benefits, taking risks out of desperation, what is? When Duanmu Hong heard this, he frowned. Isn't this senior's words a bit too much? Ever since I became Martial Ancestor's alchemy attendant, I personally witnessed Martial Ancestor using this method every time he refined high-level pills. In the first year, the number of failures and successes were basically equal. After that, there were very few mistakes. In the recent year, he has successfully subdued the pill tribulation many times without a single failure. The quality of the pills have all improved because of David. Everyone looked at Duanmu Hong in shock. Their gazes shifted back and forth between Duanmu Hong and Xiao Yan. Through Tang Jun and Gu Lianqing's alchemy, they knew that this youth in front of them, Duanmu Hong, was a simple and serious person. He did things by the book and wouldn't fake it. His words just now revealed three crucial pieces of information. 1. When Xiao Yan just started using the pill tribulation to assist in pill refining, the success rate was already as much as 50%. To other people dealing with pill tribulation, This is already an unimaginable success rate. Second, Duanmu Hong's true age and how long he had been cultivating for was no secret in the eyes of cultivators with high cultivations. From this, it could be deduced that there was a limit to how long it took for Xiao Yan to go from having a 50% success rate to having a 100% success rate. This speed was even more shocking. If calming pill tribulation was so simple, then alchemy powerhouses like Dao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai would have already begun using this method. After calming pill tribulation, as long as the success rate exceeded 80%, this was an extremely valuable alchemy method. It would cause a storm amongst alchemists and set off a frenzy. Third, the current Xiao Yan had become accustomed to triggering pill tribulation and then calming pill tribulation. His success rate was nearly 100%. In the future, he would naturally have countless opportunities to refine pills. If this continued for a long time, a quantitative change would lead to a qualitative change. The medicinal materials he had destroyed in the first few years were completely insignificant compared to his future gains. They could be completely ignored. Is this true? All of the junior disciples stared blankly at Lin Ming. For a time, even Yan Nanlai, Wu Mingqi, Gu Qing, and the others were moved. They stared closely at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's left hand constantly changed hand seals. His right hand pointed towards the furnace and the black star furnace completely stabilized. The golden 8 trigrams completely fused into the white clouds above the furnace. At this moment, the white auspicious cloud had already regained its tranquility. It was unceasingly condensing and compressing, transforming into a transparent crystal-like crystal. Immediately after, it continued to condense into a ray of light that was almost transparent like sunlight, yet also seemed to flicker with 7 colors. Then, it poured into the dark star cauldron below. The pure white pure yang true fire in the furnace dispersed without a sound. No strange phenomenon appeared, no sound came out. However, it revealed a profound concept of an elephant being invisible. Everyone looked carefully and saw that at the bottom of the furnace, 12 pure white pills were placed silently. A faint fragrance wafted from them. Within each pill there seemed to be surging clouds, filled with spirituality. However, it was not as spiritual as the 9 yang spirit pill and the divine enlightenment pill. It was as if they did not have a pill spirit, just like a low-level spirit pill. If someone who did not know the way of alchemy saw this, they might mistake it for an ordinary pill like the Qi restoration pill. However, most of the people present had some understanding of alchemy. They all knew that Xiao Yan's furnace of pills did not have spirituality. It was just that the pills themselves were quiet and tranquil, which was why they looked so stable. The elixir contained spirituality, as if each elixir was a living life. From beginning to end, Xiao Yan's expression was calm. He opened his palm and used his magic power to guide the 12 pills into his palm. Here is a furnace of cloud net pills. Please appraise them. Xiao Yan smiled. Gu Yuankai stared at the 12 pure white cloud net pills. He carefully probed them with his divine sense. Xiao Yan did not stop him, allowing him to explore. After a long time, Gu Yuankai sighed. I am ashamed. Xiao Yan's cloud net pill has the effect of calming and healing injuries to the soul, as well as being able to recover damage to the physical body. It is a pill that Xiao Yan created by combining various pill formulas, such as the Thunder Sound Great Cyclic Pill, as well as his own understanding of pill refinement. It is the crystallization of his painstaking efforts on pill formulas over these few years. In terms of quality alone, this pill surpassed the 9 Yang Spirit Pill and the Saint Enlightenment Pill by half a level. Just based on this pill gathering was already Xiao Yan's victory. Moreover, in terms of quality, the Cloud Net Pill that had been purified by the pill tribulation also surpassed Dao Master Qing Ning's 9 Yang Spirit Pill and Gu Yuankai's Divine Enlightenment Pill. Suddenly, someone asked, "How long has it been? Did he go over the time limit?" Someone beside him silently calculated, and his expression became complicated. He didn't go over the time limit. He still needed the time it takes to drink a cup of tea. I'm afraid this is within his calculations. His grasp of time is far beyond our imagination. He really used the pill tribulation to assist in alchemy, but how is this possible? Most of the people present subconsciously shook their heads, not daring to believe their eyes. It was clearly an accident that should have been avoided, but it actually became an aid in alchemy. How could such a dangerous method be so easily controlled? Suddenly, the words that Tang Jun and Chong Ling had said to each other appeared in everyone's minds. To you, it might be a shortcut, but to us celestial sect disciples, it is nothing more than a trivial matter. Greedy for a moment of vanity? It's not that we are greedy for vanity, it's that we can bear this glory, so it naturally falls onto us. You are all treading on thin ice, but I have a smooth road. For a time, a similar thought appeared in everyone's minds. We really don't understand the world of Xianmen Tianzong. Chapter 1085. Xiao Yin calmly looked at Tao Master Qing Ning. Tao Master Qing Ning was also using his Dharma power and divine sense to explore Xiao Yan's cloudy net elixirs. After a while, he withdrew his Dharma power and remained silent for a long time. After a long silence, Tao Master Qing Ning sighed. My skills are not as good as others. I lost. Xiao Yan's method of using elixir tribulation to assist in alchemy is really unique. An alchemist at his level didn't need to take elixirs. He could accurately judge the quality of the elixir as long as he used his divine sense and Dharma power to detect it. Although he couldn't determine the efficacy of the elixir or distinguish the pharmacology, he could clearly perceive the medicinal power and the principles of heaven and earth contained in it. Thus, he could judge the level of the elixir. Although Xiao Yan's cloudy net elixirs couldn't be compared with elixirs such as the 33 Heavens Fortune elixir, the 10 Saints Golden elixir, and the Longevity elixir, there was no doubt that they were better than the 9 Yang Spirit elixir and the Divine Enlightenment elixir. According to the agreement of both sides before the pill competition, just this point alone Xiao Yan had already obtained victory. After Tao Master Qing Ning's appraisal, he could also be sure that when the elixir tribulation occurred, the inner demons of the elixirs had been completely removed. Xiao Yan's batch of cloudy net elixirs had no side effect. Moreover, because of the elimination of the elixir tribulation, the quality of the elixirs was even better. It was also better than the 9 Yang Spirit elixir and the Divine Enlightenment elixir. When Xiao Yan opened the furnace, there was no flaw in his method of pulling the elixir. There was no dregs in the cauldron. During the alchemy process, there was no leakage of medicinal power. He had accurately refined all the medicinal power of the raw materials into elixirs without any waste. These 12 cloudy net elixirs were the raw materials that Xiao Yan put in. In theory, the highest number of elixirs that could be refined. To be honest, Xiao Yan's alchemy speed was inferior to Tao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai, but his precise control of time was even more impressive. There were only 3 people present, but the scale of the event could be said to be the best elixir gathering since the ancient era. Xiao Yan won the title with an indisputable advantage. In Xianmen Tianzong's camp, Tang Jun, Yang Tai, Yen Wuwei, Tan Yunqing, and the others looked at each other and smiled. Even Zhou Yunsong, whose expression had always been cold and hard, seemed to have softened a little. Only little Duanmu Hong's eyes still carried a puzzled look. Why are the others so astonished by Grand Master's pill refining methods? Other than Xianmen Tianzong, everyone else was still in a daze. Gu Yuankai shook his head and sighed. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Tao Master Qing Ning was silent. He was not a sore loser, but after admitting defeat, he seemed to have aged a little. In Taishu Temple's camp, Chong Ling shook his head in pain. Coincidence, it must be a coincidence. What 50% success rate to 100%, it must be a lie. Chen Xingyu turned his head and looked at him. Calm down, calm down. You have already lost your composure many times today. If you continue like this, you will achieve nothing in the future. Chong Ling laughed bitterly. No matter how calm I am, it is hard to say how great my achievements will be in the future. Perhaps my cultivation will improve, but it will be difficult for my alchemy skills to improve. Every time I close my eyes, I see the scene of Xiao Yan defeating Grand Master. He did not continue speaking because he did not want to criticize his elders, but Chen Xingyu understood what he meant. The Dao Lord Qing Ning, who was like a high mountain in the past, was defeated under the hands of Xiao Yan, who is actually not much older than him. This very easily made the younger generation disciples of the Void Temple, who specialize in the way of alchemy, feel despair. Compared to Dao Master Qing Ning, they already felt insignificant. But whether it was Dao Master Qing Ning or Gu Yuankai, they had been immersed in the alchemy path for thousands of years, so it was normal for there to be such a huge gap. This mountain was awe-inspiring, but it also set a goal for the later generations. Through their own efforts and the accumulation of time, there would eventually be a day when they would climb the mountain. But in front of them, there was a person who could step on the mountain with one step. How could this huge gap not make people despair? To put it in a more vulgar way, looking at Xiao Yan, the vast majority of people who studied the alchemy path had serious self-doubt at this moment, feeling that they were as stupid as pig. Even worse than pigs. Even Dao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai were a little shaken, let alone the other younger generation. The younger generation of the ancient clan was also greatly shocked. Gu Lianqing recovered after a long time, took a deep breath, and said, "It is normal for people to have their own talents. In the past, Emperor Chong, Xia Huang, and ancestor Chongsheng all showed amazing talent in alchemy at a young age and with low cultivation. This is the so-called rare genius. Right now, this senior Shao of the Celestial Sect 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 of the Celestial Sect." Gu Qing looked at Gu Jun. "Brother, did you already expect this result?" Gu Jun shook his head. "How is that possible? It's just that I know Xiao Yan better than you do. Although he is brave, he is not impatient and reckless. Perhaps he had this problem when he was young, but after years of teaching and polishing by the Celestial Gate Master, he is no longer the same as before. But as for the specific result, it is still beyond my expectations. I really didn't expect him to have such high attainments in alchemy. My original guess was that he tied with ninth uncle and Dao Master Qing Ning. In this way, he gave up the Nanmingli fire and won by half a point. Compared to Dao Master Qing Ning, he also has the advantage of being younger, so he won by half a point." Gu Qing looked at Xiao Zhen'er and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Zhen'er has been very calm. Xiao Zhen'er smiled slightly. "Because I haven't seen Brother Xiao Yan refine alchemy with my own eyes, I can only estimate based on the refined pills. So I don't know what level of Brother Xiao Yan's alchemy is, but I have confidence in Brother Xiao Yan." Xiao Yan looked at Dao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai, and calmly cupped his hands. "Thank you for letting me win." Dao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai admitted their defeat and didn't argue back and forth. This made Xiao Yan feel a bit of respect for them. As the three people with the highest attainments in alchemy, if the two of them joined forces to deny it, although it wouldn't affect the final result, they would still argue back and forth. However, the two old men were obviously not such thick-skinned people. For a time, they only felt lonely. After Xiao Yan cupped his hands, he pointed a finger at the ink star cauldron. A stream of light rushed out from the cauldron and scattered in the sky, like gorgeous fireworks. Dao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai saw this and did the same. This was also the etiquette of the ancient alchemy gathering, indicating the end of the alchemy competition. Tao Master Qing Ning looked at Yen Nanlai and Yen Nanlai nodded. I will keep my word. As for the previous agreement, give it to Sect Master Lin and his disciple of Xianmen Tianzong. Tao Master Qing Ning silently nodded and let out a long sigh. He said with a sound transmission, Abidine, I was too careless. I forgot that there is always someone better out there. Yen Nanlai also used his transcendence energy to send a sound transmission. Senior apprentice brother Qingning is being too serious. All of the pressure has been placed on you alone. 33 Heavens Fortune Immortal Pills. It seems that we can only wait until the war between the two worlds to make plans. Tao Master Qing Ning shook his head. I thought we could harvest ahead of time, but, on the other side, Gu Yuankai did the same. He returned to Gu Jun's side. Your Majesty, is this the result you want to see? If this is a choice, then isn't it a bit too early? Gu Jun calmly replied. Ninth Imperial Uncle, I do not deny that because of what the Great Void Temple mentioned back then, I am more and more optimistic about the Celestial Sect of Wonders. However, this desolate spirit spring has nothing to do with whether or not I make a choice. He glanced at Gu Yuankai. Xianmen Tianzong's pill recipe is a great favor. My clan cannot receive it for free, otherwise it will truly affect my choice. To give away a desolate spirit spring in such a way is just a gesture. Gu Yuankai fell silent. After a long time, he nodded. Your Majesty's words are reasonable. It was I who didn't think it through. Gu Jun shook his head. He looked at Xiao Yan. Now it seems that this return gift is becoming too light. It doesn't have the desired effect. If so, Gu Yuankai bitterly smiled. Xiao Yan's victory in this alchemy gathering was truly beautiful. There was no dispute at all. He and Tao Master Qing Ning were both convinced of his victory. There was no need for anyone else to speak up for him. Without considering anything else and just looking at personal factors, Zhen has chosen a good husband. Gu Yuankai shook his head and praised. He is so young and yet his talent in cultivation is so outstanding. Not to mention his formidable cultivation, but he also has such profound attainments in the path of alchemy. This is truly rare. Gu Qing said, although it isn't without any suspense, many people consider Tao Master Qing Ning to be the #1 alchemist in the human cultivation world of the Divine Land. Even within my clan, only you, 9th Royal Uncle, can compete with him. If Xiao Yan can surpass him and 9th Royal Uncle with a clear and indisputable advantage, then I fear he is truly worthy of being called the #1 alchemist in the human cultivation world. Although it is said that there is always someone better out there, but suddenly an originally unknown person who is even stronger than Xiao Yan popped out. In this era, I really find it very hard to imagine. Especially when Xiao Yan is still so young, I'm afraid he is still far from reaching his own peak. Gu Jun and Gu Yuankai both nodded. On the other side of the Taishu Temple camp, Yen Nanlai, Tao Master Qing Ning, and Wu Mingqi all looked at Xiao Yan with slightly complicated expressions. They watched as this handsome young man dressed in purple with a black robe returned to the camp where Xianmen Tianzong was on the other side of the White Lotus platform. Lin Feng looked at his eldest disciple and smiled. After today, your reputation in alchemy will probably surpass your reputation in other aspects. Xiao Yan smiled. This disciple has also benefited a lot from this alchemy gathering. Lin Feng nodded. Your mentality is very good. On the side, Zhu Yi Yangqing and Li Yuanfang also congratulated Xiao Yan. After today, Xiao Yan had succeeded in this battle and began to establish his reputation as the #1 alchemy grandmaster in the world. But the current him had not yet reached his peak. Chapter 1086. The result of the elixir gathering was within some people's expectations, but it was also beyond the majority's expectations. The Gu clan handed over the mouth of a desolate spirit spring to Xianmen Tianzong on the spot. Lin Feng received the mouth of the desolate spirit spring, and after studying it for a while, he already had an idea in his heart. It can enhance the quality of elixirs, but the higher the level of the elixir, the smaller the effect. Even so, it is still very useful. As the old saying went, it was always the hardest to make further progress. Even if there was a slight breakthrough on the original limit, it would still be a great harvest. As for the 4 great elixirs of Taishu Temple, even Tao Master Qing Ning and Yen Nanlai would not carry them with them, but they would certainly not renege on the debt and would naturally send them over from White Cloud Mountain. This kind of errand was not convenient for people with low cultivation, so in the end, Lin Daohan had to personally make this trip. Lin Daohan had not been watching the elixir gathering before. After receiving Yen Nanlai's order, his expression was calm as usual. He did not reject this kind of errand work, nor did he feel that it was an insult to himself. However, he, who had always been calm, was a little startled by the defeat of Tao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai by Xiao Yan, but he quickly recovered. Lin Feng went to talk with Yen Nanlai and Gu Jun, while Xiao Zhener escorted Lin Daohan out of the ancient longevity world. Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi also accompanied him. "Thank you, fellow Taoists, for sending me off." Lin Daohan came to the entrance of the ancient longevity world, and cupped his hands in greeting. Xiao Zhener returned the greeting. "Fellow Taoist Lin, take care." Zhu Yi looked at Lin Daohan and silently said, "Eldest senior brother and your sex Tao Master Qing Ning had an alchemy competition. It was a great event. It is a pity that fellow Taoist Lin was not able to attend." Lin Daohan nodded. "I am also deeply sorry." Zhu Yi's tone suddenly changed. "I'm also looking forward to being able to participate in this grand undertaking with you and gather in this grand event of the literary world." Lin Daohan's gaze was as calm as water when he heard this. He looked at Zhu Yi for a long time before he shook his head lightly. "Actually, there's no need for that. Fellow Taoist Zhu, you don't need to keep it in your heart." Zhu Yi's expression didn't change. "You disturbed my examination and harbored ill intentions. Then, you didn't even leave me an explanation. You came as you wished and left as you wished. Do you think I'm made of clay?" Lin Daohan said in a warm voice, "I was just curious back then. At that time, your master and your disciple seemed to have the intention of gaining fame, so I wanted to do an experiment. But in the end, I made a fool of myself in front of Master Yi. Now that I think about it, I was really rash." Lin Daohan looked at Zhu Yi calmly. He had some understanding of Zhu Yi's style of doing things. Zhu Yi was reasonable. He would not be sly if there was no reason, but on the other hand, he was always unforgiving. Lin Daohan gazed at Zhu Yi with a calm expression. He had a slight understanding of Zhu Yi's way of doing things. Zhu Yi was reasonable, and he wouldn't be sly if he was unreasonable. It was almost impossible to make Zhu Yi let it go with just a few simple words. He had to be reasonable and calm, only then could it end. Understanding reason, distinguishing right from wrong, paying attention to kindness and enmity, this was Zhu Yi's style. He had to repay kindness and enmity. Zhu Yi looked at Lin Daohan and said slowly, "Do you think I want to fight with you?" "Not at all. Although I am very interested in exchanging blows with you, it is purely a curiosity on the level of cultivation. It has nothing to do with our past enmity. The end of our enmity will take place on another battlefield." As Zhu Yi spoke, he faintly smiled. "Fellow Taoist Lin, I wish you a safe journey back to White Cloud Mountain. The day we settle our scores is not too far off." Lin Daohan's eyes, which had been as calm as water, rippled slightly. After a moment of silence, he nodded. "I am suddenly looking forward to it. Goodbye, the three of you." With that, Lin Daohan went through the entrance of the realm passage and returned to the vast thousand domains. Xiao Zhener looked at this scene curiously. Seeing this, Xiao Yan explained, "Second junior brother went to the great Zhou dynasty to participate in the imperial examination during the golden elixir period. In the end, He wrote a beautiful essay and his scholarly aura rushed up, causing the 100 saints in the great Zhou dynasty's tribute courtyard to cry out. You know about this? Xiao Zhen'er nodded. Xiao Yan continued, actually, at that time, someone in the tribute courtyard tried to stop and disturb second junior brother. That person's scholarly aura was so strong that it almost alerted the 100 saints' statues. But in the end, second junior brother suppressed it. It was this fellow Lin? Xiao Zhen'er was a little surprised. Xiao Yan nodded. To be precise, it should be a clone of him. Under disguise, he also participated in that imperial examination. After that, when he saw that things were not going well, he immediately hid his tracks, making it difficult for people to trace his identity. Xiao Zhen'er asked, Then how are you so sure it was him? Xiao Yan smiled. This is related to another matter. He moved closer to Xiao Zhen'er's ear and whispered something. Xiao Zhen'er's face showed a look of realization. I see. No wonder. At that time, father and the others also had doubts, but they didn't expect it to be this fellow Lin. Zhu Yi nodded. Lin Daohan is indeed not a simple person. What's more noteworthy is that this person's will is very strong, and his means of doing things are very flexible. He doesn't stick to the rules, which is very rare. Xiao Yan smiled. Okay, let's go back and wait for this fellow Lin to bring us the 12 spiritual dawn. Speaking of the 12 spiritual dawn, Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi looked at each other, and their gazes became slightly strange. They shook their heads and laughed together. Back at their residence, Lin Feng, Yang Qing, and Li Yuanfang had already returned. Lin Feng sat silently in his quiet room, meditating. Yang Qing and Li Yuanfang also sat cross-legged, resting with their eyes closed. Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi and Xiao Zhen'er came to the quiet room and greeted Lin Feng. Yang Qing and Li Yuanfang also stood up and greeted them. Lin Feng opened his eyes, smiled and said, You're back. Yes, master. Lin Daohan has already left the longevity ancient realm and returned to White Cloud Mountain to retrieve the spiritual dawn. Xiao Yan and the other two also sat cross-legged in front of Lin Feng. Yang Qing and Li Yuanfang sat next to them. Lin Feng shook his head and laughed. Although they did bleed a little this time, I'm afraid their attention is not on it now. In the residence of the Taishu Temple, Yan Nanlai looked at Dao Master Qing Ning and was shocked. Did you just say the recipe of the Supreme Treasure Intellect Pill? Wu Mengqi also stared at Dao Master Qing Ning. Dao Master Qing Ning nodded with a solemn expression. When I talked to Dao Master Ling Ju, his words did reveal this layer of meaning. First it was the remnant of the life substitution pill, and now it's the Supreme Treasure Intellect Pill. How could the ancient race have the recipe of 2 top spiritual dawn in our temple at the same time? Could it be? Wu Mengqi took a deep breath. Could it be that they know the whereabouts of Tianxing Taoist, or has Tianxing Taoist been hiding in the longevity ancient realm all this time? Tianxing Taoist was the former highest elder of the Taishu Temple who destroyed the elixir pavilion of the Taishu Temple and fled with all the elixir recipes. He had always been known as Tianxing Taoist, but after he caused internal strife and fled, he was completely excommunicated by the Taishu Temple. Therefore, when the cultivators of the Taishu Temple mentioned him, they would call him Tianxing Taoist. Yan Nanlai shook his head slowly. It's unlikely that he is hiding in the longevity ancient realm. Otherwise, after so many years, he would have already been discovered by our temple. It's hard to say if someone else is hiding here, but if Tianxing Taoist is hiding here, he definitely can't hide from the Haotian mirror. On the other hand, the bloodline of the ancient emperor is likely to have clues about Tianxing Taoist's whereabouts, but it's not certain. Perhaps they found a place where Tianxing Taoist used to stay, and that's why they have the present harvest. Both Dao Master Qing Ning and Wu Mengqi nodded. They had found such a place before, but it turned out to be empty. Wu Mengqi frowned slightly. Unfortunately, we can't directly ask them now. The people of Xianmen Tianzong are here, and the situation is too delicate. Otherwise, we would definitely ask the bloodline of the ancient emperor. Dao Master Qing Ning shook his head. Since they revealed the news to us, they aren't afraid of us using force. Yan Nanlai said, as long as the bloodline of the ancient emperor is not closely related to Tianqing Taoist, we have no reason to use force. Dao Master Qing Ning nodded, but Wu Mingqi didn't say anything. Supreme Treasure of Wisdom Pill, Supreme Treasure of Wisdom Pill. Yan Nanlai gave a rare bitter smile. Without the ginseng fruit tree, it's like a flower in the mirror, a moon in the water. It can be seen, but not touched. If only it was the recipe of the Divine Advent Great Way Golden Elixir. Dao Master Qing Ning and Wu Mingqi heard this and nodded in agreement. Was the recipe of the Supreme Treasure of Wisdom Pill precious? It was very precious. Not to mention its function, it was different from the Life Substitution Pill and the 10 Saints Golden Elixir. The Supreme Treasure of Wisdom Pill and the Divine Advent Great Way Golden Elixir were genuine elixirs created by Taishu Temple. Now that the recipes of the two elixirs were lost, how could the people of Taishu Temple not be worried? The Divine Advent Great Way Golden Elixir was created by Tianqing Taoist, which was a little embarrassing. The Supreme Treasure of Wisdom Pill was created by Yan Nanlai's ancestor, Yan Xinghe, one of the 4 heroes of ancient Taishu, the second temple master of Taishu Temple, and the ancestor of Yan Nanlai. It was the most orthodox inheritance of Taishu Temple. But what made Yan Nanlai and the others helpless was that the ginseng fruit tree and ginseng fruit were almost extinct. Without the main ingredient, they couldn't refine the Supreme Treasure of Wisdom Pill. Even if they obtained the recipe, they could only stare at it helplessly. It would be an exaggeration to say that it was of little value, tasteless, but a pity to discard. Just the inheritance meaning of the recipe of the Supreme Treasure of Wisdom Pill alone was enough for Taishu Temple to find a way to get it back. But as for how precious it was, at least at the moment, it was really not worth mentioning. In terms of the value that could be realized in a short period of time, the remnant of the Life Substitution Pill might be more valuable. Now that the 2 elixir recipes were in the hands of the ancient emperor, the people of Taishu Temple were both happy and troubled. They were happy because they had a clear goal instead of searching blindly. With a clear goal, it was more convenient than running around like a headless fly. The headache was because, with the celestial sect of wonders on the side, the initiative between them and the bloodline of the ancient emperor had been further reduced. Chapter 1087. The recipe for the Supreme Treasure Pill of Wisdom was the one that Lin Feng had given to Gu Jun and the others. It was a coincidence that Zhu Yi had accidentally obtained a Supreme Treasure Pill of Wisdom when he was traveling around the heavens. After bringing it back to Yujing Mountain, he used the derivation ability of Sky Gold Pavilion to successfully deduce the recipe for the Supreme Treasure Pill of Wisdom. However, for Lin Feng and his disciple, this recipe also had the problem of not being able to realize its value. In the absence of raw materials, it was difficult to refine the Supreme Treasure Pill of Wisdom. However, this did not mean that the recipe was useless. If they could successfully find a ginseng fruit tree in the future, there would be hope for them to refine the pill. Even now, if it was done properly, it could still play an important role. For example, when Taishu Temple was trying to obtain the remnant recipe for the life-substituting heavenly elixir from the ancient world of immortals, it could help the ancient world of immortals gain another bargaining chip. It was a bait that was not easy to swallow and would not fill one's stomach. However, Taishu Temple had no choice but to swallow it. Of course, whether or not they could make good use of this bargaining chip depended on Gu Jun and the others. If they did not make good use of it, it was not impossible for them to shoot themselves in the foot. However, compared to the current situation, it was undoubtedly more beneficial than harmful for the ancient emperor's bloodline. In the current situation, for the ancient clan, its special significance and function exceeded the value of the recipe itself. Lin Feng also included the supreme treasure pill of wisdom as the prize for the competition between Tao Master Qing Ning and Xiao Yan. Compared to the other three kinds of panacea, the supreme treasure pill of wisdom's true value lay in the pill itself. However, Lin Feng did not ask for more, lest the ancient clan made unnecessary associations. Even though he'd told Gu Jun and the others that the pill formula of the Supreme Treasure Wisdom Pill was something he'd deduced himself based on an accidental gain, and it wasn't a ready-made pill formula, Gu Jun and the others could guess how he'd deduced it and what his accidental gain was. Lin Feng had no intention of interfering with the dispute between Taishu Temple and the ancient emperor, who were in a state of pain and happiness together. When Lin Daohan brought the 12 elixirs from the Divine Land, Lin Feng naturally accepted them. But then, Gu Jun suddenly issued a private invitation to Lin Feng, which piqued Lin Feng's interest. He didn't know what Gu Jun's intentions were. Following Gu Qing into the great hall of the palace, Gu Jun was already waiting there. After seeing Lin Feng, he immediately said, "Sect Leader Lin, it was really presumptuous of me to invite you over this time, please forgive me." Lin Feng shook his head. "You're too polite, fellow Taoist Gu. Feel free to speak your mind." Gu Jun said, "This way, please." As he spoke, he formed a hand seal with his fingers. A pillar of light appeared in the middle of the hall, and within the pillar of light was another flight of stairs formed by flowing light. Lin Feng roughly sensed it. This staircase was different from the staircase in the Mystic Spirit Hall. It did not lead to the Nanming Longevity Grotto Heaven. Instead, it led somewhere else. Gu Jun took the lead and walked up the stairs. Lin Feng followed behind him and climbed up together. Gu Qing did not move, still remaining in the hall. After going up the staircase, the scene in front of Lin Feng changed. It was a dark void, but it was another grotto heaven. Lin Feng scanned it with his divine senses and could feel that this grotto heaven was filled with a desolate and ancient aura and artistic conception. Once one entered, one's mind would feel calm. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. A familiar feeling rose from the bottom of his heart. It was a power that could shock one's heart. The dense spiritual qi was boundless and abnormally mysterious. It was as if one was facing an entire world. However, the power and artistic conception seemed to be incomplete. There were some flaws and imperfections. At this moment, Lin Feng already knew what was going on. He turned to look at Gu Jun. Gu Jun nodded and clapped his hands gently. In the dark void, an elegant white lotus suddenly appeared. It was similar to the white lotus in the Nanming Longevity Grotto Heaven, but it was much smaller. This elegant white lotus seemed to be only the size of an adult's palm. In terms of appearance and size, it was disproportionately small compared to the huge white lotus that was the size of a city in the Nanming Longevity Grotto Heaven. It was like a piece of gravel at the foot of a towering mountain. However, the vigorous power and boundless spiritual qi contained within was incomparable to the entire Nanming Longevity Grotto Heaven. Shockingly, this was an incomplete creation magic treasure. It was similar to the immortal Dragon City before it received the heaven-punishing sword intent, the Book of Life and Death before it merged with the Six Paths Wheel, or the undamaged Ruthless Emperor battle armor in ancient times. However, just like the immortal Dragon City, the Book of Life and Death, and the Ruthless Emperor battle armor, this white lotus was only half a step away from becoming a creation artifact. When Lin Feng saw this white lotus, he connected it with historical records and already knew its origin. This is the longevity lotus of the ancient emperor, right? I always thought that this treasure was destroyed by the ruthless emperor. Gu Jun answered, "Sect Leader Lin, please don't laugh at me. The longevity lotus didn't become a true creation artifact back then and was only half a step away from success. It was indeed severely damaged by the ruthless emperor, but it wasn't completely destroyed. All these years, our race has been diligently repairing the longevity lotus. When ancestor Mingcheng was still alive, he finally restored the longevity lotus to its original state. The ancestor Mingcheng that Gu Jun mentioned was called Gu Mingcheng. He was an ancestor of the ancient race that entered the longevity ancient world to reproduce. When he was alive, he reached the Dharma-ending realm. Later on, he tried to go through a tribulation, but he failed and died. Lin Feng shook his head. You're too kind, fellow Taoist Gu. I think the longevity lotus throne should have been severely damaged back then. To be able to restore it to its original state and even vaguely improve, it really is not easy. Gu Jun said, Sect Leader Lin, you're too kind. Unfortunately, this ancestral treasure still hasn't become a true creation artifact. It's accumulated enough, but it's lacking the last bit of opportunity. Gu Jun shook his head. When the longevity ancient ancestor refined this treasure in ancient times, he said that if it became part of the Mahayana grade artifact of the king of the underworld, the longevity lotus could be completely perfected and successfully become a creation artifact. However, the longevity lotus had already been completely destroyed back then, so it's naturally impossible. As Gu Jun spoke, he opened his palm and revealed a piece of broken stone. It looked like a broken corner of a huge seal platform. Although this fragment of the longevity lotus has been passed down to this day, it's just a fragment. It can't help our race's longevity lotus to become a creation artifact. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth twitched slightly. If I remember correctly, the longevity lotus was personally destroyed by the ancient emperor. A bitter smile appeared on Gu Jun's usually calm face. That's indeed the case. The two of them looked at each other and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Gu Jun shook his head and regained his composure. He looked at Lin Feng. Sect Leader Lin, I actually have a request today. Back then, the Underworld Hall Master Su Anda offended your sect and used the Book of Life and Death to smelt the 6 paths of life and death, allowing the Book of Life and Death to become a creation artifact. Later on, the King of the Underworld snatched it away. However, after that, you fought with the King of the Underworld, and you seem to have torn out a few pages of the Book of Life and Death. Lin Feng thought to himself. As expected, the King of the Underworld's orthodoxy and the ancient Emperor's orthodoxy were at odds. However, for the longevity lotus, the Book of Life and Death could vaguely help it on its path to becoming a creation artifact. There might not be only one kind of opportunity for a creation artifact to become a creation artifact. However, for the current longevity lotus, the most likely opportunity was the Book of Life and Death. There was no need to smelt the entire 6 paths of life and death like the Book of Life and Death. Just a few pages of the Book of Life and Death would be enough. Lin Feng said silently, I only have 3.5 pages with me. 3 of them were given to my disciple, Wang Lin. I only have half a page with me. Although my knowledge of the longevity lotus is limited, 3.5 pages should not be enough for this artifact to become a creation artifact. Upon hearing that Lin Feng only had 3.5 pages of the Book of Life and Death, Gu Jun also understood that it would be impossible for his longevity lotus to become a creation artifact in a short period of time. I wonder if Sect Leader Lin can use this half-page of the Book of Life and Death for me to study and stimulate the longevity lotus? Although it will not immediately become a creation artifact, I believe it will still be of great benefit, Gu Jun said after pondering for a moment. Lin Feng's eyes narrowed slightly, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. If it was said that they were still trying to understand each other's strength and negotiate before, then the meaning revealed by Gu Jun's last sentence was very interesting. Of course. Lin Feng flicked his finger, and the half-page landed in front of Gu Jun and the longevity lotus. The petals of the longevity lotus trembled slightly. A vast amount of majestic spiritual qi, as well as the desolate, ancient, and endless power of longevity, became increasingly clear. Gu Jun sat cross-legged beside the longevity lotus. His hands formed a series of hand seals, and waves of dermic power landed on the longevity lotus. His expression was calm as he looked towards Lin Feng and said, "Sect Master Lin's skills are profound, please study it together with me. Please do not be stingy with your teachings." Lin Feng sat cross-legged and silently looked at the longevity lotus and the half-page of the Book of Life and Death. He also said with a calm expression, "In that case, I will have to trouble you." The two of them sat together in the grotto heaven of the great path of life and death, separated by the longevity lotus and the half-page of the Book of Life and Death. Silently, they studied the interweaving resonance. Although it was weak, it was still constantly evolving and changing. In the following days, Lin Feng silently comprehended in the grotto heaven of the great path of life and death. As for Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi Yangqing, Li Yuanfang, and the others, they also stayed in the ancient longevity world. Xiao Yan had shocked everyone at the elixir gathering. After that, the younger generations of the ancient clans gradually regained their composure, and they began to flock to Xiao Yan's residence in large numbers to ask for pointers on the way of alchemy. The people of Taishu Temple also stayed in the ancient longevity world. They were received by Gu Yuankai and Gu Qing. Both sides entered a long state of wrangling. Usually, the successors of Taishu Temple and the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong did not interfere with each other. With Xiao Yan taking the lead, the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong would sometimes exchange Dao with the disciples of the ancient clans. Sometimes, under the guidance of Xiao Zhen and the other disciples of the ancient clans, they would go to the ancient longevity world to pick some spirit herbs that could not be found in the outside world. At least, Yang Qing had a lot of harvest. Xiao Yan would also travel with Xiao Zhen sometimes. This kind of comfortable days was broken until one day, when Zhu Yi suddenly contacted Lin Feng. "Master, Big Brother and Miss Zhen encountered an enemy." Chapter 1088. During this period of time, Xiao Yan and Xiao Zhen would sometimes leave the ancient longevity world to travel together. Lin Feng knew about this. With Yan Nanlai, Lord Qing Ning, Wu Mingqi, and the others still staying in the ancient longevity world, the ancient clan tacitly agreed to this matter. Just like the desolate spirit spring and the longevity lotus throne, this was also a reward for Lin Feng for giving him the recipe for the supreme treasure pill of wisdom. The more chips the ancient clan had, the more confidence they had. As long as they were not too radical in certain matters, Taishu Temple could only turn a blind eye to it. And compared to the desolate spirit spring and the concept of the longevity lotus, this is a return that Lin Feng is more willing to see. Using the opponent's weight to increase his own weight, being generous at the expense of others, this kind of opportunity doesn't come often. As far as Lin Feng knew, Xiao Yan and Xiao Zhen were currently traveling to another foreign space. However, when he heard the news from Zhu Yi, Lin Feng was still a little puzzled. Encountered an enemy? Encountered what enemy? Right now it can't be compared to the Xian exterminating battle when Xiao Yan's primordial spirit first formed. These few years of training caused Xiao Yan's magic power to continuously grow. Now, there were naturally people who could threaten him, but they were already very few. There were some opponents that even if Xiao Yan could not defeat, they could not do anything to him. There were not many people who could truly threaten his life. It was not something that could be encountered just by going out for a stroll, unless someone was specifically targeting him. Moreover, even if Xiao Yan could not deal with the opponent alone, Zhu Yi would definitely come to help when he received the news. He had brought the Permitha Golden Bridge with him to the ancient longevity world. With Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi's way of doing things, unless it's absolutely necessary or a rather special situation, it's impossible for them to find Lin Feng to ask for reinforcements. Although the enemy's strength is extraordinary, eldest senior brother and I are enough to deal with it. As if understanding what Lin Feng was puzzled about, Zhu Yi added, "But the escape route that person prepared for himself is the Netherworld Sea." Lin Feng was a little surprised. Netherworld Sea? Is it a descendant of the king of the underworld, or someone else? In Lin Feng's original expectations, the emperor of the underworld, Taoist Yu Ming and the others shouldn't have shown themselves. Right now they are the standard targets that everyone wants to beat up. Not to mention that the emperor of the underworld most likely hasn't recovered to his peak state in the past. Even if he did, facing the combined attack of the Xian Gate Sky Sect and the Void Temple, he still wouldn't be able to get away with it. Although the two sides were at loggerheads now, when faced with the king of the underworld, Lin Feng and Taishu Temple did not mind working together for a limited time. They wanted to get rid of this ruthless and tolerant person first. The king of the underworld was naturally aware of this. Therefore, ever since the battle of destroying Xian, he had been hiding his tracks and had never shown himself. Zhu Yi answered, "That person is called Gongzi Zhe by his subordinates. He calls himself Shentu Zhe and is the disciple of Yu Ming Taoist. His cultivation is the direct descendant of the king of the underworld's orthodoxy. At the same time, he also cultivates a Tao technique called the Blood Hell Demonic Book. It seems to be another development of the Blood River orthodoxy and can activate the Blood River True Water. This person has the appearance of a young man, but he is already an old demon who has been cultivating for many years. It's just that most likely because he has been hiding in the Netherworld Sea with Yu Ming Taoist for a long time, so his reputation has never been prominent. However, his cultivation has already reached the void returning and Tao fusing level. Although he is not as good as the Hall Master of the Underworld Hall, Su Anda, his strength is also not bad." Lin Feng was a little baffled. He really is from the king of the underworld, and he is a direct descendant. Why? Does this Shentu Zhe have a great feud with Little Yen before? Is he here to seek revenge? Hatred could sometimes blind one's eyes and reason, and there were some extreme hatred that even if one maintained reason, it was difficult to restrain oneself. The vast majority of people in this world had a bottom line that could not be touched by others. They had the people or things that they treasured the most, or their dignity and honor, beliefs and perseverance. Once this bottom line was crossed, it was not suitable to be judged by reason or impulse. It was just that the bottom line in everyone's heart was different. Zhu Yi's voice was a little strange. "No, that Shentu Zhe is here for mission. He is here to kidnap the bride." Lin Feng's expression immediately became interesting. This is really... Lin Feng was a little speechless for a moment. The last person who had designs on Xiao Zhen'er, Marquis Jing Huan Liangan, was still imprisoned in the Golden Alms Bowl on Jade Capital Mountain, unable to make a comeback for the rest of his life. Of course, Marquis Jing Huan Liang had fulfilled all the obligations that an old enemy should have. He had left, but his intentions remained. He had squeezed out all the value that could be squeezed out by Xiao Yan. Before coming to the ancient immortal's realm, Lin Feng was still muttering in his heart. This time, besides the game with Taishu Temple, there should not be anyone coming to send gifts. This made Lin Feng a bit sigh, not being able to see the good show of blind people coming to snatch the bride when the one gets married and instead sending gift. He never thought that another one would come to him, and it was very likely that he would catch a few bigger fish through him. This Shentu Zhe isn't young anymore, yet he still places so much importance on matters of love. There are quite a few people like him. It's just that his temperament really doesn't seem like he's from the bloodline of the Emperor of the Underworld. Could he be someone with the same temperament as Little Yen? Lin Feng faintly furrowed his brows, continuing to ask, with the Netherworld Sea as a path of retreat, that bastard escaped? Zhu Yi answered, he was not eldest senior brother's match. After being suppressed by eldest senior brother smashed down with the celestial flaming lotus. At the moment of life and death, a strange mark suddenly appeared on his body. He communicated with the Netherworld Sea and used the power of the Netherworld Sea to defend himself. Only then did he save his life and break open a path back to the Netherworld Sea. Although this person could not break open the crack of the Netherworld Sea on his own, it seemed that Taoist Yu Ming had placed a life-saving restriction on him. At the crucial moment, he could use the power of the Netherworld Sea to escape. Eldest senior brother used the evil Radiant Overlord sword to block the entrance of the passage, making it impossible to close. Then, he chased after him. The restriction on Shintuzai's body vaguely formed a stable passage in the Netherworld Sea that was full of calamities. Zhu Yi explained the situation in detail. I was worried that he would be taken advantage of by the enemy, so I also went in with the Golden Permitha Bridge. Now, I'm following the mark left by eldest senior brother to meet him. I'm contacting you through the Golden Permitha Bridge. Miss Zhen is guarding the entrance. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. Xiao Yan knows to leave a mark, so he hasn't lost his mind. But even if it's to find clues about the king of the underworld, it doesn't seem like his style to chase after him so rashly. Although he was brave and fearless, the current Xiao Yan was after all tempered. It was very hard for Lin Feng to imagine that he would do such an impatient action. Zhu Yi's voice was slightly solemn. This is exactly what I wanted to report to you. Miss Zhen said that Shintuzai's words vaguely revealed a piece of information. Eldest senior brother's father's early death back then seemed to be related to Taoist Yu Ming. Although Taoist Yu Ming's lineage was previously hidden in the Netherworld Sea, they had always coveted the heavenly calamity stone of the ancient emperor's lineage. At the same time, for the sake of the Netherworld Sea, they had always been searching for something in the dark. In order to deceive people, Taoist Yu Ming had always been acting in the dark with a clone with lower cultivation. Back then, he had once been to the area near Wuzhou City. Lin Feng raised his head slightly. Originally, he had gone for Xiao Yan, but who knew that he had wrongly found his father? Zhu Yi was also very clear about the relationship between Xiao Yan and the Netherworld Sea. That was most likely the case. Lin Feng shook his head. Previously, it was said that people have a psychological bottom line. One of Xiao Yan's psychological bottom lines was his family. Back then, both his parents died early. His mother dying from illness was still fine, but his father dying at the hands of others had always been a thorn in his heart. What made Xiao Yan especially frustrated was that before this, he didn't even know who his enemy was. Only today did he finally have a clue. Lin Feng's mind spun like lightning, saying, Xiaoyi, follow your eldest senior brother, I will be there very soon. Just keep an eye on this clue of Shintuzai, don't act rashly. Taoist Yu Ming is still fine, with the Permitha Bridge by your side, you can at least protect yourselves. But if you meet the king of the underworld, it won't be easy to deal with him. Zhu Yi said, I understand, although eldest senior brother is anxious, I believe he won't be too rash. After interrupting the conversation with Zhu Yi, Lin Feng frowned slightly. Something doesn't feel right. After thinking for a while, Lin Feng turned to look at Lin Feng. He and Zhu Yi used their mana to communicate, so Gu Jun naturally couldn't hear the content of their conversation, nor did he have the intention to probe further. But he, who was originally sitting with his eyes closed, also opened his eyes at this moment and looked at Lin Feng. Sect leader Lin has also received the news? Such a big matter, Xiao Zhen would naturally report it to her father in time. Gu Jun received the news almost at the same time as Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded. I intend to go to the Netherworld Sea, what about you? Gu Jun answered. The remnant stone of heavenly calamity is with Xiao Yan. If they meet face to face, the descendants of Taoist Yu Ming will most likely be able to sense it. Knowing that the item is not in the ancient world of immortals, the king of the underworld will not take the risk of invading the ancient world of immortals for no reason, so there is no need to worry about luring the tiger away from the mountain. There is 9th royal uncle and 16th royal brother overseeing the grand formation here. It will ensure stability. This is a rare opportunity. We also intend to go to the Netherworld Sea. Lin Feng put away the half-page of the Book of Life and Death, saying, "In that case, there is no time to lose, let us set off immediately." The two of them left the Great Hall, and Gu Jun immediately received Gu Yuankai's voice transmission. Yan Nanlai had an urgent matter to discuss with him and Lin Feng. Lin Feng and Gu Jun's expressions did not change. This was originally within their expectations. Zhu Yi and Xiao Zhen would not inform Taishu Temple, but Shen Tuzhe had borrowed the power of the Netherworld Sea to escape, breaking open a crack in the Netherworld Sea, and the commotion was still very great. Taishu Temple would naturally receive the news. It was just that they did not know the specifics of the situation. Taishu Temple's elder Wu Mingqi has already rushed to that foreign space, Gu Yuankai said. Gu Jun looked at Lin Feng and Lin Feng nodded. Gu Jun then said, "Lord Yan, please make preparations to move. Time is pressing. We and Sect Master Lin will also immediately rush to that foreign space, and inform him of the details on the way." Lin Feng returned to his residence and gathered all his disciples. Then, he saw Yan Nanlai bringing Dao Master Qing Ning and Lin Daohan over. After greeting Lin Feng and Gu Jun, they did not waste any more words and immediately set off, heading towards the foreign space that had opened up a crack in the Netherworld Sea. When they arrived, they saw a crack split open in the sky, as if it was a wound in the world. The void around the crack constantly twisted, and the power of the domain fiercely compressed it, faintly suffused with a white light. In that crack, they could faintly see the Netherworld Sea wreaking havoc, as if it was the end of the world. Xiao Zhen was guarding the entrance of the crack. When she saw Lin Feng, Gu Jun, Yan Nanlai, and the others arrive, she hurriedly came forward to welcome them. Chapter 1089. Xiao Zhen greeted Lin Feng and the others, then looked at Yan Nanlai and said, "Taishu Temple's elder Wu has already gone in after arriving." Yan Nanlai nodded and didn't say anything. Lin Feng and Gu Jun's expressions didn't change either. Lin Feng said lightly, "My disciple, Wang Lin, will be here soon. After that, he will guard this crack. Time waits for no one. Let's go in first. Dao Han, you stay here and wait for sect leader Lin's disciple." Yan Nanlai turned his head and looked at Lin Daohan. Lin Daohan nodded, "Yes, master." Gu Jun looked at Xiao Zhener and sighed. "Zhener, come with us." Xiao Zhener said, "Thank you, father." Lin Feng nodded, "Let's go." With that, he stepped into the crack of the Netherworld Sea. Yan Nanlai, Gu Jun, and Dao Master Qing Ning followed. After entering the crack of the Netherworld Sea, all they could see were fierce calamities that could destroy heaven and earth. It was a ghastly sight, but it was as if there was an invisible barrier that was trying its best to block these calamities. This barrier couldn't completely block the calamities. It could only weaken them as much as possible. Therefore, a large amount of Netherworld evil flame, Blood River true water, 9 hell cold wind, mysterious heaven tribulation flame, Yellow Springs true water, and boundless astral baleful chi attacked Lin Feng and the others in waves. However, after being greatly weakened, they couldn't do anything to Lin Feng and the others. Everyone quickly moved forward. Lin Feng followed the marks left behind by Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi and walked at the front. After identifying these marks, Lin Feng nodded. The marks were all left by Xiao Yan. They were orderly and clear, not messy or panicked. This meant that although Xiao Yan had chased Shen Tuzhe into the Netherworld Sea, he still hadn't lost his cool. At this moment, Yan Nanlai already understood the gist of the matter. He glanced at Gu Jun, hesitated for a moment, then said, "Your son is a celestial being. It is normal for him to have many admirers. But at this time, isn't it too much of a coincidence?" Gu Jun's expression was the same as usual as he nodded and said, "Yan Monastery Master is too kind, my daughter is only a willow leaf." As for what exactly Shintuze is thinking, everything will be clear after we capture him. As he said this, everyone suddenly felt the invisible passage they were stepping on shake violently. Not only did the passageway itself become unstable, but the waves of the netherworld sea outside seemed to become even more violent. The netherworld sea, which was already in a frenzy, became more and more like the end of the world. Yen Nanlai and Dao Master Qing Ning looked at each other. Someone is using the power of the netherworld sea. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Is it your sex Wu Mingqi, fellow Wu? Yen Nanlai closed his eyes and shook his head after a moment. It's not Junior Wu. I'm afraid it's the successor of the king of the underworld. Since Shin Tuze can't use the power of the netherworld sea on his own, it's most likely Taoist Yu Ming, or even the king of the underworld. Lin Feng murmured, accidents are everywhere. It seems they've fought. Without wasting any time, Lin Feng immediately sped up his pace, shuttling through the passage. Yen Nanlai, Gu Jun, and the others naturally followed closely behind, heading into the depths of the netherworld sea. But as time went on, the waves of the netherworld sea became more and more violent. The entire world was shaking, as if it was about to collapse. And that passage finally began to collapse. Lin Feng, Gu Jun, Yen Nanlai, and the others all frowned. In the next moment, the invisible passage collapsed with a loud bang. The seemingly endless calamities of the netherworld sea instantly drowned everyone, and then they were scattered and lost contact. Even if they were in this environment, they could only stabilize their defenses and go with the flow. Lin Feng didn't rush to use the Two Realms Void technique to immediately descend with his original body. Instead, he took out the miraculous Shaluo tree. A dark golden radiance shone, and a tree branch stretched horizontally above his head, protecting him. However, the calamities of the netherworld sea were indeed ferocious, especially since they were continuous and seemingly endless. Moreover, they were getting more and more violent. Even the miraculous Shaluo tree had to defend with all its might. And this is under the condition that they aren't targeting me on purpose. Otherwise, it would be even more violent. Lin Feng thought, Taishu Temple's Wu Mingqi can use the power of the netherworld sea with his Dao fusing realm cultivation. Under the condition of not considering the Dharma-ending calamity, he has actual battle prowess comparable to a Dharma-ending realm cultivator or a treasure of creation. It seems like the rumors are true. I wonder how powerful Taoist Yu Ming will be after using the power of the netherworld sea? However, the netherworld sea is so brutal and brutal. Under the condition of not having complete control over it, using the power within is probably a heavy burden on the cultivator's body. The stronger the power that is used, the greater the burden. Lin Feng thought, after Wu Mingqi drowned his Taihua mountain in order to resist the big demon, there hasn't been any news of him for a long time. He has been living in seclusion on White Cloud Mountain instead of guarding infinite wilderness vast land like before. It's very likely that he's not just taking a break to rest, but also recuperating. As he thought, Lin Feng activated the miraculous Shaluo tree to defend himself while slowly moving forward in the brutal netherworld sea. The situation in the netherworld sea was extremely complicated. There were too many brutal powers running amok, and the flow of spirit qi was almost irregular. It also greatly interfered with magic power transmission, making it impossible for Lin Feng to get in touch with Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi. However, Lin Feng had left spatial markings on his disciples. Although they were also interfered with, Lin Feng could still follow the markings to find them. It was just that the efficiency was very low. After walking for an unknown period of time, Lin Feng's heart suddenly stirred. He looked up and saw a bright red pillar of light standing in the chaotic world. It was not affected by the earth-shattering calamity at all. No matter how the world was flipped over or how the world was shattered, it remained unmoved, like a pillar in the center of the netherworld sea. However, this bright red pillar of light that held up the sky and stabilized the earth did not make one feel at ease at all. Instead, it made one feel even more uneasy. Lin Feng faintly furrowed his brows. Even though I can see it, it's like it's far away. Even with my current understanding of the mysteries of the great Tao of space, it's still very difficult for me to directly come into contact with that pillar of light. This seems to be the result of the entire Nether Sea world's distortion. It was as if countless worlds, countless planes were continuously overlapping and compressing together into a center. However, it seemed to have no connection with the outside world and was hard to touch. Lin Feng followed the spatial markings on Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi's bodies and continued forward. Suddenly, the space in front of him became chaotic. Lin Feng's expression did not change. He raised his hand, his palm like a blade, and slashed at the netherworld sea turbulence in front of him. The heaven-world barrier divine ability was activated. The chaos in front of him immediately became clear. It was a small world like a giant bubble. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. This is one of the many netherworld sea worlds within a world, right? Looking around, he couldn't see any other world within a world. Lin Feng took out the world-breaking stone and opened up a world channel on the surface of the world within a world. He then entered it. The world channel quickly recovered and blocked out the netherworld sea calamities. Although there were still many calamities that came in, they were much lighter than before. Compared to the invisible channel before, it was much more stable. From the outside, this world looked like a giant bubble. But after entering, one would find that the space inside was very vast. After entering, the space imprints on Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi's bodies instantly became clear. Lin Feng flew all the way. Soon, a giant palace appeared in front of him. It didn't look luxurious, but it had a grand aura. It was just that more than half of the originally grand palace had collapsed. It was clear that a huge battle had just happened. Just by feeling the remnant mana aura here, one would know that it was done by Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi. Other than that, in this palace, the 9 underworld Wind, Blood River True Water and other calamities were much denser and could be seen everywhere. 2 figures flew out from the palace. It was Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi. When they saw Lin Feng, they immediately bowed. "Master, you're here." Lin Feng sized them up and nodded. "It's good that you're fine," Xiao Yan said. "Disciple followed that Shin Tu-Zhe into this world within a world. Originally, I planned to wait for Master to arrive before acting together. But I discovered that Yu Ming Daoist was really slippery. He didn't come to find trouble with Disciple, and just directly moved and ran. I had no choice but to act and try to hold him back until Master arrived. Later, second junior brother rushed over to help me fight against Yu Ming Daoist. The power of his netherworld sea was indeed domineering. Luckily, with second junior brother's Permetha bridge, we didn't suffer any losses. But we weren't able to keep Yu Ming Daoist." Zhu Yi nodded. "The other party has been operating here for a long time. They should have occupied more than one netherworld sea within a world. Yu Ming Daoist used the formation to escape and destroyed it. Before he left, he wanted to detonate the entire world within a world. Luckily, Big Senior Brother understood a lot about the netherworld sea and was able to stabilize this world again. We were just studying the formation that was destroyed by Yu Ming Daoist, trying to see if we can continue to follow him." Lin Feng asked. "The king of the underworld isn't here?" Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi shook their heads. Lin Feng thought for a while and said, "Bring Master to the formation." The 3 entered the broken palace and came to the deepest part of the hall. At the end was a quiet room. There were 2 broken stone statues at the door. After entering the quiet room, they saw that the walls and floor were all transparent. They could clearly see the thousands of calamities wreaking havoc in the netherworld sea outside. In the center of the quiet room, a formation was flashing with a faint light. It seemed to be in operation. However, Lin Feng only needed one look to know that this formation was completely destroyed. It was completely useless. Even for him, who was proficient in formations, it would be extremely difficult to restore it. Lin Feng stared at the formation and studied it carefully. After a while, he turned to look at Xiao Yan. I will reconstruct the formation. You will provide the necessary information about the Netherworld Sea. Although it might not point to where you Ming Daoist went, it should be able to enter other worlds within a world of the Netherworld Sea. At this time, every bit of understanding about the Netherworld Sea is of great value. Xiao Yin nodded. Yes, Master. A bright red light appeared in his eyes. Within the red light, a large number of complicated runes appeared. They were ancient and mysterious. As expected, it is the same as the bright red pillar of light we saw just now. A look of understanding appeared on Lin Feng's face. He stretched out his finger and pointed. The red light in Xiao Yan's eyes was drawn out and fell into a ball of purple cloud. Then, the purple cloud landed on the formation that was flashing with a faint light. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.